Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with the second half of the CitizenCon stream. I wanted to break my stream up into a couple of different videos because it was getting really long. I had like 4 hours, 6 hours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first annual CitizenCon cosplay contest.
Okay, so now we're doing
My
the
name is
cosplay
Molly.
contest.
I will be your host. I am on the community team here at CIG. I have 3 incredible judges with me. 2 from the character team, Jeremiah Lee, who is our lead
Had
concept
some really good
artist,
chats in the
and
first
Gage Hallman,
couple hours.
and Gage Hallman, who is our lead character technical artist. There was a last-minute substitution, so our third judge is not from the character team. Who are you?
No, he's not. The third judge is none other than Disco Lando.
That's Cheyenne Hessler. No, it's not. They lost Josh. They lost Josh Herman. He went on to do something else, I think.
No, they fit really well. Oh my god. Do
Right,
I not
so
look
we should
good?
be streaming pretty good.
They're mine.
Sorry, Molly. All right, carry on.
We should
It's
be
your
on
show, Molly.
Twitch and YouTube.
We have incredible cosplayers from around the world who have come to compete for some fantastic prizes. Our first
You can
place
chat
will
with me
receive a
on
Mustang
either one.
Omega, as well as a Corsair K68 RGB mechanical keyboard with Cherry MX red switches. Our second place will also receive a Mustang Omega, as well as a Corsair Void RGB Elite Gaming headset. And our third place will receive a Mustang Omega and an M55 RGB Pro Corsair Gaming mouse. Thank you to our sponsors for providing those prizes. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Our first cosplay is actually a group cosplay by Silk and Ale and 2
Just
other
reminding myself I had to
incredible
open up my
cosplayers.
Twitch
They are
chat.
the UEE naval officers.
All right, let's check it out. This is really just for fun, 30 minutes. Yeah, they look pretty good. I'm okay with that.
You guys look fantastic. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your costumes?
Hi, we are UEE Navy officers. There is some captain and I'm a lieutenant. And we made our costume thanks to a teasing from Squadron 42.
All right, judges, do you have any questions for this group?
I'm speechless because like I've only seen these in game, and it's just so weird seeing it in real life. Oh wow. You really are speechless. I'm so sorry. Were you basing off of a specific character in Squadron 42, or was it just the outfit in general?
Myself, someone with a beard.
I use the only female characters.
I can hardly hear anything.
We base ourselves on the characters we see on the teasers and the only woman I see.
I just gotta say, the attention to detail is incredible. Especially the flaps and just all of these little ornaments. Like, they've been heated discussion within the company and during concept, so to see you kind of recreate them is actually very impressive.
Wait, Molly, am I allowed to look?
Let's bring him back. Bring him over here. So
Yeah, would you guys like to come back over here?
Yeah.
I won't touch you, I promise. I'm
No,
not
no, stop here. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, wonderful.
Look at how good that is right there.
That's the old version. And that's
so
the new
good.
one. In the vertical slice.
All right.
And they're taking it to the next level.
Logo anymore.
Even the
But
city.
in the old
that
one,
is so
there
cool.
was.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys are
These are
missing
great.
out, man. This is really cool up close. Oh, that is so. What material is this? You should have said gold or silver. Plastic kind of cheapens it a little bit.
You know, budget cuts in the Navy.
I planned on being the. I was planning on being the ass, but this is really good. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Our second cosplayer
There's one
is
guy
Dennis
that's-
Parker,
one guy
cosplaying
is wearing
a
some
Hurston
pretty good
Lorville
armor.
baghead pilot.
Not the baghead, but there's a guy wearing armor, and I saw him earlier, and he was like really awesome.
Nobody wants that disco.
Thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about your cosplay?
Well, first off, it was Disco Lando said not to, so I took that as a challenge.
Yes, my roommate is our legal counsel. You can breathe in there, right?
Yes.
All right, I asked, Toast. I asked.
Judges, do you have any questions?
How do you breathe in that? You just do?
Just do.
You guys don't want to know like how we came up with this plastic bag helmet in the first place. I feel like I'm seeing one of our memes coming to life. It's amazing.
What does it smell like in there?
Oh man.
Steam.
Okay, come here.
All right, thank you so much. Our next group consists of Admiral Hawk and Captain Partak as a Navy Admiral and an Admiral's aide.
Not so much.
Can you tell me a little bit about your cosplay?
Yeah, we're members of the United Emperor of Earth Naval Reserves, and this is the away attire from going down to planet, so it's a bit more practical than uniforms you've seen previously from the naval officers. Yeah.
Perfect. Judges?
You guys are just chilling, right? It's kind of, yeah.
I want to call out, and this might be a little hypocritical for me, but the beard really makes it. This is recognizing your strengths and going, I'm going to build a costume around your personal strengths. The beard sells it. Good job, man.
I guess a beard is part of your cosplay, right? I guess that
Is that cosplay? Yes.
Right.
Imagine
it's
you without
just
a beard.
glued on. It's not natural.
Pointing at you.
All
It
right,
wouldn't
thank
work
you
without
so
the beard.
much.
Thank you so much. Really cool. Actually, can you stop by here?
Yeah, let me see the patches.
Ignore my creepy face. Just
Okay. Let me see the. Oh, you got on the other shoulder.
do a little spin
Now-
for me. That was so creepy.
These aren't the
I'm
ones
sorry.
we sold. These aren't the ones. Now,
That is real- you put the reserves
yes,
on it. That is
they have taken the patches that we made available on the RSI store like years ago and modified them.
Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Okay, all right.
My roommate is legal.
All right, we're good. Okay.
Sorry, Toast. We'll talk again.
Sorry, Toast.
All right, thank you guys so much. Our next cosplayer is Captain Bosch, cosplaying an original
Hey.
inverse character.
While you were based in Germany, crewing tanks in the British Army. Oh, cool. Well, that was back in the day, wouldn't it? 2013? See, that looks pretty good.
Can you tell us a little bit about your cosplay?
But not as good as one of the guys.
Yeah, it's
in
really
armor.
hot. I've tried to, it's my imagining of the outlaw armor.
Any questions, judges?
So, I gotta know, what are these pads made of? Because like they just look great. Like all your armor and padding and everything. Yeah.
Well, I'm not great at making things from scratch, so I've tried to repurpose things where I can. I've used a lot of sort of airsoft gear, tried to just add my own touches, like an old Origin patch I had from back in the day and my concierge citizen card.
What's the dog tags on your belt?
Well, dog tags.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a discussion. I'm sorry.
Sometimes dog tags are just dog tags.
They're just dog tags.
What are those dog tags? They're dog tags.
Let me see your helmet.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this.
I asked for it first.
Wait, let me take a look at it. I want to see the inside.
Was this 3D printed?
No, it's an airsoft helmet, so I've repurposed it.
Oh, it looks like very accurate, man.
Oh,
Yeah, it does look, it's an airsoft helmet, but it has-
Strikingly similar.
Is that a critique? Whose work is that a critique of?
I was using real life references when I was concepting this. Thank you so much for the cosplay.
Toast, Jeremiah will be talking to you after the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, man.
He's an airsofter.
Our next cosplayer is Solar Mute, cosplaying as a Ninetales outlaw in full Inquisitor armor with a Morningstar helmet.
Nice.
That just sounds impressive. I haven't even looked
Yeah,
at it
the
yet.
Morningstar helmet guy was probably the best. That guy right there.
Yes!
Inquisitor armor too. He's got it a little bit missing, but that's okay. Music changed.
Get back.
Oh my god. What is happening?
This is incredible.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your cosplay?
Yeah, so I'm here representing the Ninetales, which you guys have us all wrong. We make your economy work, and if you want to talk about villains, have you guys seen Hurston Security? Like, I saw a guy just looking at an M50, and they shot him for literally 7 minutes. So, Ninetales good. Ninetales good.
Judges,
Come on, record.
questions, pictures, whatever you would like
Let me
to do.
nerd out for a second.
Say, I am the scourge of the Stanton system.
I am the scourge of the Stanton system.
The voice makes it.
Is it delicate?
It is, yeah, it's all 3D printed,
Okay.
so the layers are pretty thin.
Can you hold me? Just.
He's gonna win.
I just gotta get a closer look. This is so good, man.
Wait, can you check his rigging on this?
Oh yeah. Let's see how accurate. I set this one up myself, so.
Oh, no kidding.
This is.
Gage is a technical artist. One of his jobs is to actually take the armor and actually make it work and function and move.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really good.
Our next cosplayer, Astrojack, is cosplaying as a bounty hunter.
Yeah, I did see another guy with a helmet that was pretty cool. It was like all glass in the front. And that's not him. That does look good though.
Wait, does he have a Playboy logo on his shoulder pad? Well, not really. It's.
For the purposes of the conversation I'm going to have with Toast after this, no, it does not.
Okay. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your cosplay?
My stuff, other than the boots and the helmets, all EVA foam, platform foam for kids. And it's my first time doing cosplay and working with EVA foam.
First time? No way.
Thanks.
Pretty impressive, first time. He's got the same helmet on.
So I can see that your team capes like myself. I get criticized all the time, and they all the fans always send me pictures of Edna with no cape memes. But I appreciate your cape.
It's all just foam?
That is amazing. Okay, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna break it.
You guys are really touchy.
Okay, I will touch
him, Jeremiah.
Okay, I'm touching you. Wait,
Touch
this
him,
is
Gage.
legal, right?
Touch him.
Oh, that's really cool. This all foam?
Yeah, all foam. You got the screws in there and everything, man.
Are you taking pictures of me touching people?
I've got it recorded.
Oh no! Oh, thank you so much. That's great. That's great.
We're done.
Thank you so much.
That was Astrojack?
That was Astrojack, yes. Our next cosplayer, Blood Beach, is cosplaying an AAWA security fleet officer.
Blood Beach.
Oh wow! Wow! That is amazing.
Gotta appreciate the swagger.
Oh,
And he's a gentleman.
Hey.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your cosplay?
About my cosplay. Okay, it's my first time cosplaying. I bought. Other stuff I found under my couch. I don't know where it came from, but it was there. This is a 3D print of my character. Of my help me God. It is a. Ask the jury. This is a Kraken. Yeah, thank you so much. This is a Kraken, of course. How dare you?
I swear, if it had been a Carrick, I was gonna throttle him.
Well, yeah. That's me.
Any questions, judges?
So that is a contact lens, right?
I'm sorry?
That is a contact lens, right?
Again? This is a contact lens, yeah.
I love the commitment.
For God's sake, yeah.
Yeah.
God, what if it hadn't been? How awkward would that have been for you?
And
you just went right out there like a child.
I'm just trying to appreciate.
Jared, it actually, it hurts. So if you could get on with all that, then I could. It burns like hell, man.
I love it. I love it.
No.
I have like 5 questions.
Sean Tracy can ignore the notes in his thing and go off and say when Theaters of War comes out. He can do whatever. But
So like, I'm sorry, I'm delaying your pain, but like your on your legs, did you stitch those together on top of your pants?
This thing?
No, on your right leg.
That thing?
Yeah.
Well, this is from the, where you buy stuff when you get hurt somewhere, and this is actually, you can get this everywhere.
Thinking things.
I got this from an army store, and I think if I put the Geiger counter on it, maybe it does something bad.
what
I
if
don't
that
know.
had been an actual bandage? You can actually hurt him. So what is with
why
you
are
people?
they
You're
so
just...
honest? Why can't they be like, oh, I killed a man and I put this on?
Because he's a decent person.
Oh, that's right.
Guys, the eye.
I'm sorry,
All
you were
right,
great.
you're done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh.
His name was
You
Blood
gotta
Beach.
love somebody that suffers for their art.
Oh yeah.
Our next cosplayer is Director Gernot, who is cosplaying an ISTA uniform from his org.
Oh. Wow.
I can get behind that. ISTA, whatever that is.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your cosplay and your org?
Thank you. This uniform is the style from our corporation, the Imperial Staff Force, Starfleet of Austria. And for me, it was very important to bring our colors from our flag, Austria flag, on my uniform. So the white and the red style, and our eagle in Austria is black, and so also I want to combine it with the black style too.
Any questions, judges?
Are the shoelaces red? As part of the uniform?
It was also important that the red one, yeah.
Okay, wow. How do you... I don't necessarily have to answer this question for video games. How do you put it on?
Pardon?
How do you put it on? The jacket?
Okay.
Don't take it on.
Let me ask the questions. I'm curious.
It's no problem. It's like this from the Star Trek style, from Captain Kirk. So you can open it.
That's cool, yeah.
And bring it in a style.
So did you sew this together yourself?
It's a combination of 3 styles of uniforms, and a tailor made it for me.
Can I be creepy just for 1 second? Can you lift your neck first? Your head first?
Can you be creepy for 1 second?
Yes, also from our corporation.
Well, we're doing this live, right?
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really cool. I love it.
Now, I'm gonna say, you get this guy. What was this? Gernot? Gernot. You get 10 points for creating an outfit for your org. Congratulations. But you lose 50 points because the last person I knew who did that was my dad. Hi, Dad.
Our next cosplayer is Broadsword, who is cosplaying a retired UEEN captain, now freelancing around the verse with his compatriots in Eagle's Nest.
Wow.
Broadsword.
Oh, wow.
Retired.
Good classic Wing Commander name, which I only know because of Ben Lesnick.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your cosplay?
Yeah, it's a leather jacket my wife won't let me wear anymore, so I put some badges on it, and
here I am.
Any questions, judges?
Your wife wouldn't
So
let you
is-
wear the jacket anymore, so you turned it into a costume?
Why not?
10 points.
A true rebel. So you were like, my wife doesn't like it, so I'll just wear it to CitizenCon.
10 more points.
10 more points. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh man, I'm enjoying this more than any of the other panels. I did some cosplaying
Our
back
next
in the day.
cosplayer is Jail, who is a very well-traveled citizen with an outfit from various sources in the lore.
Oh, come on. Blue jeans.
See, his bag lights up.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about your cosplay?
Sure. I made a T-shirt based off a single paragraph of lore in the Xi'an Guide. It's like a reference to a punk rebellious company, and that's this. So I made the logo and the text. It says, "Everyone be crazy like humans." So it's like a call to rebellion. And then I made a hat with lights.
Can you actually read the Xi'an? I'll give you 10 points if you can read.
Oh, that says "Etue mama."
I know what it means, but how does it sound?
Etue mama. Oh, mama.
Louder?
Etue mama.
You know,
Britton,
I
are
don't
you in
speak
here?
Xi'an. I'll believe you. That's like
I mean, they made my name the word for amazing in Xi'an because I learned it. So I've been giving people these stickers all day which say, "Hi, my name is Joe."
Oh, that is so cool.
There you go.
Don't roll off the stage. You're at the edge of the stage.
That's right. So, how are you breathing in that?
Carefully, and for about 20 minutes at a time.
Oh, okay. So this panel lasts for 30 minutes, you know, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
Okay, okay.
That's really cool.
Thank you so much.
Oh no.
Our last but definitely not least cosplayer is Sigelian, who is cosplaying as the CEO of Ultima Energy, the CEO of the future.
Okay.
Oh, I love the neck piece.
Oh, wow, it sparkles.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the CEO of the future?
I love Jamali. Yeah. Well, the future, it's bright. Much like the white coat here, it's so bright, so sparkly. That's how I look at the future. Anyways, yeah, my outfit, you're asking about the outfit, right?
Yes.
All right, yeah, actually, I used to be a cargo pilot before I was CEO. I used to go around Crusader all the time, in the Crusader system. Anyways, you can get this stuff at the Art Corp. Shoes are at Area 18, I think. I can't, Area 17 or 18, I always mix those two up, but yeah, you can get it all Casaba. Hey, Casaba people out here, anybody? No? Okay, well, you can get this all at Casaba, right? Available now. Jacket, HURL1, I believe, one of the Lagrange R&Rs. Anyways, that's it. Sorry, a little bit.
Judges, any questions?
I love your suit, but I just can't stop looking at your Crocs.
Yeah, actually, the shoes of the future, my friend. The shoes of the future. Yeah, like
He said Crocs.
Not crotch, Crocs.
No,
I said Crocs.
But then you said it afterwards.
Yeah. You can actually get these at Area 18, Mr. Lando, if you like. I could show you sometime. I'd be happy to.
No,
Very fashionable.
All I can think looking at you is those glasses aren't as ridiculous as the ones we just put in the game
Ask
for
me about the
subscribers.
glasses. Ask me about the glasses. You can get these I had to, everything else you can get in Stanton. I had to import these all the way from Earth. Can you believe that? That distance just for a pair of glasses.
Well, subscribers can get even crazier glasses available now in the subscriber exclusive store. Some of them go this high on your head.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh goodness. Oh, he was the last one.
All right.
So while we give our judges time to deliberate and decide our winners, we're going to go ahead and give a warm round of applause to everyone who entered. Thank you so much. Your cosplays are amazing.
Wait, they're all out of order.
But you have the description. Did you bring that? This card gave you the descriptions.
Oh.
You brought the wrong card.
Thank you.
Actually, I gotta get my bag too.
All right, I know mine.
I gotta say.
So you're gonna pass out in T-3, 2. No, you look fine.
You can see the steam. So Chris Roberts loves interior helmet lighting as well, plus 10 more points.
All right, wrap it up, guys. We got Tony waiting.
Oh, sorry, Tony.
Okay. I can't put my mic down. Can you mute me?
Can we mute Jared for a second, please? So we can
It's a banana.
deliberate.
While they take time to deliberate, do you guys want to get together for a group picture? Come all over here, strike a pose. All right. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Odd or even. We weren't even doing wrong. You put up. Hey, right? 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 Go. Okay, so that is. All right, we're ready. Is my mic on? Mic back on?
Our judges have a
Hello.
decision.
All right. Who wants to do number 3? Who wants to do third place? Gage.
Okay.
Announce third place.
I can't read this. Point it out to me.
Okay. Third place. I'll do it. It's not like I don't do this for a living.
fine.
Third place is Dennis Parker, the Hurston Lorville Baghead Pilot. You never forget your first baghead. Okay. Number 2. You want to do this one? Or am I going to do them all?
You know, you're doing so
Okay.
great. Why don't you do them all?
Second place, Silkenell and Group, the UE Naval Officers. And finally, the grand prize for the first annual CitizenCon cosplay contest hosted by Molly. But I'm talking Solar Mute, the Nine Tails Outlaw in full Inquisitor armor with Morningstar helmet.
We knew that. It's a tall guy, too.
Thank you all so much. Congratulations, guys, and thank you to everyone who entered. Your cosplays
thank you
were
guys so much
amazing.
for
We are
this.
so excited to do this again next year and can't wait to see what you create. Congratulations again to the winners, and thank you to everyone.
All right, well, we exit the stage and make room for Tony. We got Ulf somewhere in the building. Ulf, where are you?
I'm right here in the marketplace, Jared. Hey, I'm right here in the marketplace, Jared. I wish I had crafting skills like this to come up with the cosplay, but unfortunately I don't. So I'm here interviewing people, and I'm here with Chris. He's one of the projects that have a community booth. And Chris, why don't you tell us a bit about the booth that you're having right here?
Yeah, in my Xi'an workshop, I translate names that are coming to my booth, players or gamers that are coming to my booth, and I translate the names into Xi'an, and then I paint the names with a Japanese calligraphy brush on rice paper, and do my signature stamp on it, and then they can get it for free to go.
And how many names did you write today already?
Today, I think I wrote around 40 to 50 names.
Wow.
And my backlog is still around 30 names or something.
Wow. So you've got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you always been interested in languages, or how do you come to translating stuff in Xi'an?
I'm a big sci-fi fan because of Star Citizen, sure. And 2 years ago, I was at CitizenCon. I was in the audience, and Britton Watkins was presenting on a panel the new Xi'an language. And then I decided I learn the language, and I do everything to get fluent in it. And I directly started creating learning materials like learning cards or learning in apps for the smartphones with the alphabet. And by creating the course, I learned the alphabet, and then I continued to. I could read the letters, but then I wanted to write the letters. And then I looked at the official document, and I saw there was no font you could use easily. And then I decided to just buy a font design software and start from zero, and create an easy-to-use Xi'an font. And after 6 months of work and working through the document and integrating all special cases, I had a working font that could write all Xi'an text in the Xi'an document. And at this point, I sent the font to Britton Watkins for him if it's useful to him. And then he was very intrigued, and he directly asked me if he can send it to CIG. And then I said yes, sure, use it. I wanted players to use it in game, so CIG would have to use it to create the content.
All right, Chris. If I wanted to learn Xi'an, how long would it take me?
I think about maybe 1 year to, yeah. So that we have multiple learning materials like the alphabet course, where you can learn the alphabet. Then we have a memorize course with around 900 words currently, there where you can learn the vocabulary.
Okay, talking about vocabulary, what is goodbye in Xi'an?
Goodbye in Xi'an is athleiko.
So let's both say athleigo.
Athleiko.
And we give it back to the main stage.
Okay.
I've been waiting for this one.
Man. Can we get those lights brighter? Okay, so hi, I'm Tony Zervek, and I'm the Director of Persistent Universe for Star Citizen. I'll be doing the lead vocals tonight, and over here on my right on the keyboard is Jake Mealy, our economy designer from Austin.
Hi.
And we're going to be showing you something pretty interesting tonight, and I want to make sure to call out our guitar and bass players back in Montreal, Martin and Robert Lizy.
Yeah, that's right.
They spent a lot of time working with us over the last, 4, 5, 6 months, very, very intensely on what we're going to be revealing tonight. It's been a bit of a stealth project recently. We've actually shown it to very few people within Cloud Imperium because we wanted to get it to a level of maturity to where it was very easy for people to understand what the benefits of this new technology were going to be. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of it tonight, but you're going to need some background information to truly appreciate it, so bear with me for a bit and you'll see why we consider it a quantum leap. So, as everybody here obviously knows, Star Citizen is a very ambitious project. Our goal is to deliver a variety of incredibly detailed solar systems that behave in logical fashion and to then give you ample freedom to follow your interests, whatever they may be. Thus far, we've been focused entirely on a single system, Stanton, which includes 4 planets, 12 moons, 225 economic nodes, 44 trading outposts, 13 rest stops, and 50 asteroid fields. So yeah, it's really big. The point of this presentation then is to give you a better understanding of how, when the first one's taken so long, we're aiming to kick things into overdrive so that we can deliver new systems much more quickly. This involves, obviously, a lot of different areas: procedural generation of terrain, modular art sets, algorithmic detailing of buildings and interiors, and a lot of other stuff. For the purposes of this talk, though, I'm going to focus on what I call the dynamic content. So, what is dynamic content? Dynamic content responds to player and NPC actions in logical fashion. It's systemic. This means that the universe is in constant motion, which makes it a far more interesting place to explore. Most missions should, of course, be dynamic in nature. They should only be offered when there's an actual need for something. This might take the form of a factory that needs some aluminum to create a retail product, a criminal that needs to be brought to justice, or someone that needs a lift from one location to another. At their core, missions are services provided by one party for the benefit of another, and they are therefore one of the fundamental ways by which imbalances in the economy can be addressed. Likewise, economic nodes, which include things like refineries, factories, and retail shops, need to be dynamic since they must continually take into account the various market forces and adjust accordingly. When demand for something outstrips supply, whether it's iron ore, bullets, or ship repairs, you expect prices to rise. And conversely, when there's an excess of something, you expect that prices will fall. There's more to it, of course. Concepts like marginal demand and price discovery require a fair bit of math. But in the end, it's all about the constant search for equilibrium as production and consumption levels vary. I'll get around to explaining probability volumes in more detail in a bit, but suffice to say for now that they dictate what you encounter as you travel through a given area. As such, they should definitely be dynamic. So, for example, if a new field of asteroids rich in valuable commodities is discovered, you'd expect to find a lot of NPC miners in the area, but as the resources are gradually depleted, their numbers should start to fall off. Pirates should gravitate toward areas with a lot of value to plunder and recoil as the amount of security ticks up. So let's look into each of these areas in a bit more detail and see why we've struggled to set up a single solar system and at the same time get a precise understanding of what needs to happen so that we can start moving a lot faster. We'll start with the missions. A Star Citizen mission is fundamentally just a container for code and data, similar in concept to a class in any of a multitude of modern-day programming languages. Inputs can be passed into a mission from either the runtime environment or services to allow for customization. This allows designers to do things like, say, inject the type and quantity of cargo, whether the ship should be damaged or not, and where the ship should be heading, into a generic transport scenario so that we can reuse the same framework for a lot of different situations. Missions can have content tags embedded within themselves to denote their composition, whether they contain security, pirates, freighters, miners, asteroids, or some kind of a combination. Missions can also have thematic tags applied. These don't specify physical content, but rather detail the headline story behind the scenario that a designer created. So designers can differentiate between a straightforward pirate encounter versus one that includes an ambush. Once these descriptors have been assigned, the missions are injected into a database that other systems can access so that they can be instantiated and customized depending upon the situation. This, however, is where we start to run into some major problems. Designers have to explicitly link missions to various constructs within the game, an NPC mission giver, for example, or a probability volume covering the area around yellow. This is time-consuming and greatly complicates maintenance. If a content tag, like pirate, is split into subtags like pirate light and pirate heavy so that we can have more control over what we're aiming to instantiate, you have to go to every place you had assigned the original mission category and individually determine which of the new ones should be enabled. Worse, this isn't dynamic at all. Mission content is fixed to specific NPCs and locations, so there's no evolution. The universe is completely static. Another major problem is that we don't have sufficient context to properly customize the missions. At a macro level, the game doesn't really understand the concept of a route, much less what miners traversing that route should be carrying, or what condition they should be in, or which direction they should be if if they're empty, heading towards a mine, or full, bringing the results of their efforts back to a refinery. This lack of context means that we can't exploit a mission's ability to have information injected into it for customization, and that means that you see a lot less diversity, despite requiring just as much work. The last problem, and it's a big one, is that there's no NPC regulation of the mission content. Missions are the basic units of work for the economy, and if someone doesn't do what needs to be done, then everything grinds to a halt. In a properly functioning system, NPCs need the ability to step up if players aren't going to, and the risk reward justifies the effort, and do the work themselves. If a commodity can be purchased at one location and sold at another for a dramatic markup, and there isn't enough cost or risk involved in the transport to warrant the differential, NPCs should seize the opportunity and move the material themselves until the price starts to make sense. So let's talk about economic nodes now. An economic node is an entity within the game which might be represented via an actual storefront, a kiosk, a UI interface, or an NPC that possesses an item manifest detailing the items it wants to buy or sell, storage capacity, and a fair bit of data related to determining prices. This includes refineries that process ore, factories that produce goods, and retail stores where you buy finished products. Factory inputs aren't explicitly denoted, but are instead derived from the production formulae of whatever they manufacture. Prices, what economic nodes are willing to pay for their inputs, and what they want in order to sell, are determined algorithmically based upon the rate of change of their inventory versus the tangent of a pricing curve. This means that they're smart enough to, say, raise the price of what they're selling even when their inventory is low if they detect that they're being resupplied at a sufficient rate to get where they want to be in a reasonable amount of time. So clearly there's some dynamism happening here, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, that's where the good news ends. As with missions, economic nodes don't have any real context in terms of supply and demand, and there's no systemic flow of goods throughout the economy. Why does a refinery want ore? Why is an NPC willing to buy some drugs from you? Where does the shop get the goods that it's selling? Right now, the answer to all these questions is the same. We fake it. Economic nodes conjure up their own supply and demand out of thin air. If a node is designated as wanting to purchase a particular item, for example, designers dictate a formula that describes how that inventory will be gradually burned off so that they want more. These products you deliver to a node then, they don't actually go anywhere. There's no real demand. This is impossible to balance because while production and consumption are fixed, the player count isn't. Sometimes 100 players are interacting with an economic node and sometimes none. And I mention this because behind the scenes, at the economic level, all of the players, despite being on different servers, really are connected to one single system. A real economy is a tangled web of dependencies, and you can't expect logical results when its gears can completely seize up due to the action or inaction of players. What we really need then is NPC regulation of the system, for NPCs to purchase items when they need them, thus keeping the demand side logical, while stepping in to help with the supply when players don't and the risk reward warrants it. This has ripple effects into other areas. If the demand for missiles spiked because there was a lot of combat, you'd expect that the commodities used to construct those missiles would start to rise in price. And you'd also expect to see more miners and freighters working to alleviate that shortage. If the price got high enough that those transports would be carrying a lot of value, so you'd expect piracy to increase, at which point you should start to see a lot more security patrols and requests for combat escorts. A simple change in demand then should be able to alter not only what you see as you travel throughout the system, but also the available missions. These kinds of knock-on effects, in fact, should happen regardless of whether any player is in an area, and that's a separate problem I'll talk about more when we get to probability volumes. So let's take a quick look at what it means to set up an economic node. As I mentioned, there are about 225 economic nodes within the Stanton system, and many of them deal with a lot of different items. Each of these items can specify its own production or consumption formula, along with a lot of other information, storage space, optimal inventory level, price offsets, and much more. This information can be archetyped, but of course the world's a lot more interesting if every economic node is a bit different, so there's still a lot of customization that winds up happening. So now let's take a look at the economic nodes around a typical planetary system. And finally, let's take a look at the economic nodes around the entire Stanton solar system. That's a tremendous amount of data to set up and maintain as we're routinely adding new items and changing prices. And the worst part is that it's all extremely rigid. There's no way to have an economic node increase how much of something it produces or consumes, because those things are attached to formulae that have no understanding of external events. So right now, designers try their best to brute force this stuff, to make it feel like it's a systemic world, even if it's not. If an area is configured to have a lot of pirates, they increase the price offsets and demand for goods at nearby nodes. If the number of pirates is subsequently decreased, or maybe more security is added to the area, then the nodes are updated to reflect that fact. It's a ton of work, and while this sort of hand tweaking does yield something that feels vaguely logical, if static, it's definitely not a real solution, and it doesn't even begin to address the major problems. Now we come to the last of the major areas for which I wanted to illustrate the problems that we currently face. So, what is a probability volume? A probability volume is an area of space that contains information detailing what you should see as you pass through the area. It's an optimization of sorts in that it allows us to achieve a desired effect, a certain number of pirates in an area, or a particular likelihood of encountering a freighter filled with iron ore, without having to burn a lot of computational horsepower simulating things when there are no players around to see it. This is accomplished via linking mission content tags to probability curves that span all or part of the expanse of the volume. So for example, you can denote that security ships are commonplace near Port Olisar and gradually fall off over a couple hundred kilometers, whereas it's very rare to see pirates who would prefer to avoid security close to Port Olisar, but more likely to see them as you get farther away. There are quite a few different types of curves denoting, because until a player actually accepts one of these missions and heads to that location, there are a variety of probabilities. I think some of our notes got screwed up here. Anyway, so one of the more interesting types of curves is the spoofing curve, which allows missions to skirt the normal rules, requiring that they can only be created in the proximity of a player. And this is done so that an NPC can request that you travel to them to provide something they desire, in which case, obviously, we can't limit them to only existing in yours or another player's immediate proximity. This is how combat assist is currently handled, and we'll be adding some other things like NPC refuel and NPC passenger transport in the near future. The reason it's called spoofing is because we only keep a small stub active on the back end, which is way more efficient. We've got other types of curves. There are reinforcement curves that allow designers to dictate how quickly backup tends to arrive when you've been identified as a felon. And we also have the ability to modulate that time according to how far away you are from the place you were last spotted and how long ago that was. There are bounty hunter curves, which allow us to link to a probability, which allows us to link a probability to your wanted level so that we can increase the encounter frequency when they'd actually be hunting you, and otherwise keep them very rare. Let's continue on, though, and get a better understanding of how exactly probability volumes works. Here we have an area of space that's marked up as having a certain probability of pirates and freighters, security, asteroids, and derelict ships. Now let's go ahead and activate all of that content. That's a lot of content to simulate when no one is around to see it. A lot of pathfinding NPCs, animations, vehicle physics, collision detection. Now let's go ahead and introduce a player and clear the board. Those pirates and freighters and everything else, they still exist, but only in a probabilistic state. As the player traverses through the volume, we roll the dice on the various curves and force the probabilities to make a choice. Does that content exist at that location or doesn't it? Here, the player gets a hit from the asteroid probability. So the mission database is then queried to find missions with the associated content tag, dynamic parameters injected, and the mission is instantiated. And now a bit later, the player trips the freighter probability and then eventually runs into a pirate. The key point here is that much of the world exists as a superposition of probabilities until a player gets sufficiently close that the wave functions collapse, at which point we instantiate them and start simulating the full-blown entities. One of the quirks with probability volumes is that they usually represent a variety of low-frequency events. Space is big after all, and even in a pretty heavily populated area, you shouldn't be running into other ships all that often. The problem is that the likelihood of multiple events happening simultaneously is a product of their probabilities, meaning that it's very unlikely you'd ever see two or more at the same time. So let's go ahead and see what this means in practice. Here's a player traversing a probability volume. He makes it through a good part of it before the freighter's probability curve determines that an encounter has occurred, at which point the probability volume queries the mission database with the freighter tag and instantiates a compatible mission. The player continues on, and shortly thereafter, the pirate's probability curve indicates a hit, which triggers another lookup into the mission database. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with this. In fact, it's a pretty accurate representation of what you realistically expect to see. Two rare events happening on their own schedule. The systemic behavior of the freighter and the pirate, even if spawned separately, would allow them to logically react to one another. So if they were spawned in close enough proximity, the pirate might even attack the freighter. The problem is that this approach lets the algorithms dictate too much of the experience, and if you're not careful, this can lead to the gameplay starting to feel very formulaic. What we really want is the ability for designers to craft more custom content and to then have a mechanism by which we can trigger it such that it all feels logical, if a bit lucky in the timing. Our slides seem to be stuck.
My microphone is dead.
Yeah, we seem to be having a couple technical problems.
Yeah, there it is. Hello. Yeah. CitizenCon, am I right? CitizenCon, am I right? Yeah. All right. What do you think? We can just show this.
We can just do Q&A. We could still jump, but I'm sure they'll get this. I'm sure they'll get this resolved in a second. So I'd hate to skip ahead. Like I said, this is the medicine you'll have to take so that you can fully appreciate what we're going to get to in a few minutes. I know it's a little bit odd to spend the first 20 minutes talking about all the problems with the game and how they've made creating one solar system so incredibly difficult, but I do think it will help clarify the value of what we're going to be showing a little bit later.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, so we're back in live. So what we do instead of basically allowing the algorithms to entirely control what you see is we defer the activation for a short period of time and bend the probabilities of other things so that we're more likely to get a combination than would otherwise be the case. So they once again the player once again triggers the freighter's probability, but rather than, you already got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're running a little bit ahead. But basically what you've seen here is the player hit the freighter's probability, held on to it. We bent the probabilities to increase the likelihood of anything else being able to be attached. In this case, that involved the freighter. It involved the pirate, rather. So why does this matter? Think about a pirate and a freighter being created separately. It's going to take a good while for the pirate to close the distance with the freighter, disable it, park next to it, and board it. This means that you'd never come upon a situation where the freighter's already been disabled and the pirates are rampaging through the ship, so you'd better hurry if you want to save the crew. That's actually a really interesting scenario, though, one that'd be a lot of fun to experience. So while we're fine with the systemic functionality, driving things by default, we want to be able to bend things towards more interesting situations without it ever feeling too random every once in a while. The problem with probability volumes then all comes down to their construction. Each one, and there are lots of them, contains a litany of curves and associated data and is set up by hand, which is time-consuming and requires constant updating as other things change. One of the main reasons why they're so difficult to maintain is that many of the variables that a probability volume details should impact one another. More security in an area should of course impact the number of pirates, but because they're all handled independently, designers have to be very careful when modifying them. Mistakes are inevitably made, which results in a lot of sleuthing around to figure out what broke or is now poorly balanced and how to resolve it. The worst thing though is that they're static. If an area has a lot of pirates, it will always have a lot of pirates. There's nothing you or the NPC population can do to change that. Rewards won't vary based upon the level of threat in an area because the threat is always the same. A new commodity discovery won't cause miners to move in to exploit it and won't in turn attract pirates eager to prey on them. Demand for security patrols and escorts for that area won't increase in response to the pirates, and the pirate threat won't recede as a result. What we really need then is a way to dynamically derive the probability curves based upon what's happening, or rather should be happening when we manage to resolve all these problems I've been pointing out across the solar system. So I've called out a lot of very serious problems, things that require enormous amounts of bandwidth to set up and maintain and that still fail to deliver the experience we want. What we actually want is a dynamic, logical universe. We want the demand for goods and services to be the result of a legitimate economic need, and we must have sufficient runtime context so that we can customize these modular mission templates. NPCs must be able to contribute in helping to turn the gears of the economy from buying and selling goods to creating and accepting missions. The system needs to automatically balance itself so that we can focus on the high-level rules instead of the details. All of this, too, has to be incredibly computationally efficient, which means we need a more focused simulation engine, one that's only concerned with what we need to achieve the desired effect. If we're ever going to reach a point where we can deliver new solar systems in a reasonable amount of time, then we're going to need to make a quantum leap. So, what's the solution? Yeah, I was supposed to flip.
We'll flip over to the end there.
Yep, let's go ahead and flip the screens.
It's exciting, I really promise.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
So this is quantum, and I know what you're thinking, I've seen this before. If the visuals look particularly familiar, it's because we started with the solar system map that we released years ago. But this really is a totally different beast. The original star map referenced static data. There was nothing dynamic about it, but quantum is totally different. For starters, it has access to all of the back-end services and can pull whatever data it needs from them. Everything you see on the screen then, that's real-time data pulled from the game. So let's go ahead and take a quick tour of the system. Let's jump on over to Hurston. Actually, I'm not getting the screen over here. I'm going to go ahead and jump over with you. I can't see anything.
Just get on over. There it is. Hurston.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and jump on over to everyone's favorite gas giant, Crusader. And in the background there, you can see Port Olisar. Let's go ahead and bring that up. Now, I mentioned that we're connected to all the real-time data. Let's go ahead and see what the players are up to. So, each of those red dots is a real player, thousands of them across well over 100 servers. Now, to be honest, we recorded this earlier mainly because we didn't know how many people would be playing the game while we were doing this show.
'Cause y'all are right here, right?
And I figured it would be totally anticlimactic to say, here are all the players, and 3 dots showed up. So let's go ahead and continue the tour of the solar system and jump on over to Daymar. And you can see a number of people affixed to the planet. Some of those obviously are going to be at outposts. Some of them are inevitably mining. Over there on the right, you can see the current player list. Let's go ahead and see what a couple players are up to. Just go ahead and highlight them so we can see where they're at. And let's go ahead and jump to Circo Worm and see where he's at. It looks like he's in Loreville.
Here he is. Hi, buddy.
And you can actually see some deaths down on the planet there. So obviously there's been some conflict there. And you actually see, let's go ahead and back out a little bit and find there's a contract to the right. You have access to missions, so you can see that Clipsos Norwang is requesting personal transport to Loreville, and he's willing to pay $4,500.
Good on you, buddy.
Let's go ahead and jump on over to Ariel, and we can get a view of those probability volumes that I was talking about earlier. And so what you're seeing here, as I mentioned, there are a variety of different types and lots of different content and thematic tags for all these things. So you can see everything from the default tags, you can see the security reinforcement tags, the bounty hunter tags, the spoofing tags. There are a number of these. We'll be adding more. In general, what it's doing is, as I mentioned, it's basically representing things in probabilistic state because it's too expensive for us to fully simulate them. Now let's go ahead and jump over to a shop. Let's check out the Hicks Research Station that's on Cellin. Yeah, we've got to go over to Crusader. And let's go ahead and open up that shop.
Oh, look, here's...
Yep, there's Outpost Korea, and you can see that there's a lot of death around there. And over on the right at the Hicks Research Station, you can see all the things that it buys and sells and what those prices have been doing over time. Now, I suspect I know what you're thinking at this point. This is all very cool, but it doesn't really solve any of the fundamental problems that I mentioned earlier, and that's totally true. So let's clear the board and get to that. So the primary reason for quantum's existence is to enable us to have one unified world where we can, simulate millions of NPCs and feed back into that all of the player actions into one unified whole. So there's really no difference. There are some optimized areas, the probability volumes that exist in between these two realities, but really this is the full-blown simulation. It takes into account all the player actions. So let's go ahead and start by bringing 1,000 quanta to life. You on the wrong one? So Jake here is cranking the number of quanta up to 1,000, and they're basically going to come streaming in from another system.
Flowing into the universe there.
These are simulated entities. And as I mentioned, the real significance of this is when you're talking about working out the vast multitude of details that we really need to allow this universe to evolve and feel dynamic, we don't actually need all of the incredibly high fidelity, super computationally expensive stuff that we would get if we were actually simulating these NPCs the traditional way on the server so that they look exactly like they would when you see them. These NPCs don't need to do animations. They don't need to do physics. They don't need to do collision detection. They don't need to do a whole slew of things that we couldn't afford to do. It'd be incredibly expensive to try. And in the end, even if we did it, it wouldn't make the end results any more accurate. So
they also have personality traits too. Like each one has a little bit of something going on.
Yeah, there are a number of different traits that we're modeling. We're still working out the exact configuration. One of them is ambition, and that specifies how far a quantum can push themselves relative to others, whether in crime or legitimate enterprise. Another one is intelligence, and that dictates what sort of things they can pursue and how well they can do something. Happiness is a measure of whether a quantum, the singular form of quanta, is miserable or content, and unhappy quanta want to change their situation, move to a new location, change occupations, and that sort of thing. Aggression controls the lengths to which a quantum will go to achieve their objective. A business-oriented quantum with a lot of aggression might push their workers harder, trading their happiness for more profit, and as a result have to deal with more turnover. And lastly, criminality, that determines the amount of criminal behavior that a quantum will consider. No criminality equates to a law-abiding quantum. Having a very little means that they might be willing to commit some minor crimes like smuggling or illegal mining. And a lot means that they're open to piracy and murder. They can have possessions, store up money, own a ship or property, have a home. Now, all of these quanta have basically come to rest within the system. And the reason for that is because there's nothing for them to do. There's no reason for them to get up off of the couch. So, let's jump to the next slide. We're going to add a little bit of interest to the system by adding an aluminum mine to Delamar. So we've now injected a mine onto Delamar, and yet you see the quanta still refuse to do anything, and that's because there's no economic reason for them to do it. There's nothing to do with the ore that they could go and extract. Let's go ahead and open up that card, though. So that card represents the mine on Delamar, and you can see a couple of stats towards the top, quantity and purity. And what these are is basically telling you how much of that material is in that mine, and purity is to some degree a measure of concentration. It effectively details how easy it is to extract it. There are a couple of parameters at the bottom that are temporary. Those will eventually be derived from those top two parameters, but for right now we can override it for some of the testing that we've been doing. So let's go ahead and jump to the next. So now we're going to go ahead and add an aluminum refinery to Crusader. And immediately you will see the quanta start springing to life. And what's happening is they've all figured out that refinery, it wants to build up a stockpile of aluminum. And in order to do that, it needs some raw aluminum ore, and thus it's willing to pay for it. And so the quanta are seizing upon that economic opportunity, heading out to Delamar, doing the work, extracting that ore, and taking it back to the refinery. And this will continue until it's full. So let's go ahead and open that card up again, and we can watch the refined aluminum ore gradually build up. You can also see the number of workers. A few of the quanta, so you see many of them actually acting as miners. There's also a number of them that are working in that refining factory. Refineries can't process this material without labor, and there's a formula that dictates how much labor is required in order to process this stuff. And so they have to hire a sufficient number of workers in order to actually execute this operation. And so this would continue for quite a while. Let's go ahead and speed up the simulation a bit and go ahead and keep watching the aluminum inventory. That's finished, so they're now building up their raw ore to basically load up, and after that the entire economy comes to a halt. The one refiner we've added has no more incentive to buy more. Its storage houses are already full, and therefore it's not willing to buy. Since it's not willing to buy, the quanta have nothing to do. So what we're going to do now is add a factory. But before we do that, let's head on over to the power plant formula. And you can see here that building a power plant, just like refining ore, requires something. It requires 10 workers working for a duration of 60 ticks. And it also notably requires 2 units of refined aluminum ore in order to produce one power plant.
It's got to be more complicated than that, I promise. So.
Yes. Again, we're building up. So let's go ahead and add the factory to Hurston. You gotta slow it down.
Oh, going too fast there. Slow on down.
And so once again, you see the economy spring to life. And so now you've actually got two different tiers going. The factory, let's go ahead and open up the factory. The factory, just like the refinery, needs workers in order to build these power plants. It also needs refined aluminum. So now you've got multiple things going on. The factory is willing to buy refined aluminum. Someone has to transport that aluminum from Crusader to Hurston. So some of the quanta are basically working, they're basically working as freighters to move that product from one location to another. Some of them are working at the factory on Hurston. Some of them are working at the refinery on Crusader. Some of them are heading back to Delamar to actually do more mining. So you've got an entire little, economic cycle going here. However, it's going to wind up coming to a dead end here. Let's go ahead and accelerate it again, just like what we saw before, because eventually the factory fills up all of its warehouses. It can't take any more. It therefore has no more, it has no more need for refined aluminum. That will eventually shut down the refinery, which will in turn eventually kill off the miners. And you can see there that the inventory is still building on the aluminum, which is why there's still some activity.
There's a lot, yeah. But as soon as it's done, it starts flatlining, so you see that the inventory is capped out.
Yep, and now they're almost done. The factory has basically got, it's got all it can handle. The refinery has all of all it can handle. Therefore, the entire loop, draws to close again. So let's add one more node. Let's add a shop that sells power plants to ArcCorp. Slow it down again. And so now the loop is a bit more complicated. The shop is it's a retail shop. It's looking to sell power plants. In order to do that, it needs to be able to buy them for one price, sell them for another. So it adds its markup on, and it, just like the factory that requires transport of the refined aluminum from Crusader to Hurston, it needs the power plants transported from the factory to it. And so if you notice, if the individual quanta, they'll actually have a little translucent circle around them if they're carrying goods. And so you can easily differentiate whether or not the ones that are moving, for example, from Hurston back to the mine are empty. They're going to load up on ore. And then when they're heading back to Delamar, and then from Delamar back to Crusader, they've actually all got ore. And so this loop will actually continue indefinitely. And the reason is because we've cheated something for tonight, and it sounds very similar to what I was basically saying was a bad idea earlier, which is the shop right now is a simple consumer. It's burning off that inventory. The difference here is that the solution to that is very simple in the context of quantum. And the reason is these quanta, the next step of what we'll be working on is they'll actually require ships. Ships require engines. And so all of a sudden there's a real demand for how many power plants do you need? How many ships do you need? It all follows those same logical equations. So let's go ahead and add a bit more economic complexity.
Actually, that's slide.
So thus far we've shown a very basic economic loop. One commodity, one refinery, one factory, and one retail shop. The real world, of course, is far more complicated. You'll have lots of different commodities, refining and production nodes, retail shops, and of course players in quanta competing against one another for a limited supply of goods and services. It's this competition, this economic natural selection that ensures that things remain in balance, that a logical equilibrium is reached. Should have already gone to it. So, next. So, our current architecture basically has players connecting to a game server. And then we've got services behind the scenes that can feed information to these servers and receive information back in return. And so you can see here, we've got shop services and probability volume services and all of this sort of thing. The basic problem with this arrangement is that services don't have any knowledge of what NPCs are doing, or rather what they should be doing. So that shop service that controls the prices It's got algorithms, but it has no real understanding. It doesn't understand that there are 10,000 NPCs that do or don't need this, or what pirates are doing, or any of that. We don't simulate at that high level anywhere within the game right now. You have servers that basically instantiate the stuff near you, and you have the services that can run these formula, and that's basically it. Now, they can implement these services, these algorithmic price calculations, but supply and demand only comes from players and hard-coded formulae. And it's the same for missions and PVs. The data is completely static and can't evolve. The number of servers, of course, as we've seen here, it varies depending upon how many players are in the game. So let's go ahead and add quantum. Quantum changes this in dramatic fashion. It gives us a place where we can efficiently simulate NPC behavior and then feeds that behavior to the game server so that players can experience it. Further, it allows player actions to be fed back into the simulation so that there's no meaningful difference between the real and simulated worlds. Quantum creates a complete loop. NPCs can be simulated in efficient fashion. And I actually meant to say that quantum feeds the services, which in turn feed the game servers. So let's go ahead and get back to the simulation. And what we're going to do now is alter the power plant formula. So let's add a bit of complexity by changing the production formula for power plants to require laranite.
Add some.
We need to change. No, we need to change the production formula.
No, we gotta change the laranite first.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we do want to add the new mine first. So we're going to add a laranite mine to Walla. And then we want to go ahead and add a refinery for this laranite. We'll add that to the Hurston L3. And now let's go ahead and adjust that power plant formula. And we're going to change the power plant formula. Right now it requires 0 laranite. We're going to change that to 2. And what we're going to very quickly see here is that we're going to start getting some laranite flowing to the Hurston factory so that the power plants can continue to be created. Yep. And that's that loop of guys right there. That's what they're taking. Now, one of the important things here is that let's go ahead and look at the Hurston aluminum. Bring Hurston factory aluminum. Now, what wound up happening there is it was very low for a period of time, and that's because they were actually burning off that aluminum inventory as fast as they could get it. And the reason why you see that spike there in the aluminum inventory is because as soon as we altered the formula so that power plants now require laranite, they were still receiving from all these freighter transports. They still had aluminum coming in, but they could no longer produce power plants. So it stalled, and then all of a sudden they started stockpiling. And then when you see that the aluminum started falling, that's because finally they started receiving supplies of laranite, and they were able to resume the production process. And so all of a sudden, their aluminum started getting burned off at a natural rate. Yep. So now we're going to add a bit more laranite out in the asteroid fields, and Jake's going to handle that via macro. And now let's go ahead and increase the supply of aluminum and see what happens. So we're going to add a few new mines. So let's add an aluminum mine to Selin first. And let's add one to Aberdeen as well. And lastly, we're going to do Lyria. And if you remember, we already have an aluminum mine on Delamar. They're telling us we need to hurry up.
You can jump ahead, I guess.
You guys want us to hurry up or keep going? All right, so it's like 400 to 1. Let's add a couple more aluminum refineries as well to the Crusader L4 and ArcCorp L1.
Crusader L4.
Yep, an ArcCorp L1.
Yep.
So now let's go ahead. We just added all of this new aluminum. So let's head back to that Hurston factory and see what aluminum prices are doing there. What's that factory having to pay for aluminum with all this new supply, these new mines, these new refineries? And there you see that the price is starting to fall off. Can you speed it up a little bit? Let's you see what it does. And if you see, it continues to plummet. So those prices are pretty much falling off a cliff now from all that extra supply that's been brought on without us having to go back and rebalance anything. So let's go ahead and head on over to Cellen. And you can see that Cellen is in very close proximity to Crusader. So you've got an aluminum refinery and aluminum mining, yet there's very little activity. And the reason is because the aluminum at that mine is very difficult to extract. So let's go ahead and adjust the mining time on Cellen from 180 to 120.
There it is.
And what this again reflects is how difficult it is to extract from that particular location. And so you see there now you see a few guys are actually willing to put in the amount of work necessary to extract it. Not all of them, it's still a lot of effort. And this comes back to every one of these guys having their own individual set of traits. So some of them were willing to endure, more risk, more, more effort, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead now and increase the laranite consumption.
Hurry up a little bit. You can jump ahead to the.
Let's just go with normal pace.
All right. There you go.
So let's make the laranite more difficult to work with and more rare and see what happens there. So we're going to adjust the global laranite refining time from 60 to 120.
We're adjusting the time on Walla to be.
We're going to do both. The global refining time, we want to take it to 60 to 120. And Walla's extraction time goes from 60 to 180.
That's right.
60 to 120. Laranite. So what we've just done is basically make it more time consuming, more difficult to refine it, and we've basically made it more difficult to pull it out of the ground. So let's go ahead and apply a macro also to reduce the default purity of laranite from 50 to 16%, which means that refineries are going to need more ore to produce the same amount of refined product. We active? And now let's go ahead and take a look at the laranite prices on the Hurston factory. So we just did 3 different things to make it considerably, more expensive for laranite to be utilized.
Speed up that time.
And you speed it up, and you can see that laranite prices are going up. It looks like they're starting to skyrocket. This could be a complete economic disaster. If you notice, they're just going up. So what we're going to do now to bring that back into control is let's go adjust the power plant formula to compensate a bit. So let's adjust it from, instead of 2 laranite, let's change it to 0.1. So we just reduced the amount of laranite needed in the economy by 95%. And let's head back and check out the prices again. And what we should see here in a minute is laranite should start to drop off pretty significantly. And there you go.
Crisis averted.
And this will continue to drop if we watch it. You always get a little bit of turbulence because you've already got contracts set up and stuff.
Right.
Go ahead and leave it in. I want to see it drop a little bit more.
We all want to see it, Tony.
So it's already down 40, 50%, and it'll keep falling. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add some additional factories. Delamar looks pretty dead. There isn't a lot of economic activity happening over there. So let's add a bit of life by adding a new power plant factory.
Yeah, one over here too.
And yeah, let's add a Hurston L4 factory for power plants as well to create a little bit of competition for aluminum. And then let's head on over to Hurston factory, and let's check out their workers. You notice that their workers are falling off a cliff. What is happening? Well, we just opened up a new power plant factory, and they're getting offered better wages from another place. And so, and what are the wages on Hurston?
I'm gonna grab this guy.
Let's see what the wages that they were offering. I can't see it. So they were up at, is that 0.25?
Yeah, Delamar's offering like almost 3 times the wages of.
Yep. So there you see the differential, which is that factory is more desperate for workers, and so you see. Let's look at the basically the workers skyrocketed on Delamar and plummeted on Hurston. And eventually those wages, of course, stabilize. They find a point of equilibrium, which is a big point of all of this. So let's go ahead now and make some major changes. We're going to do this with a macro, and you can see where we currently stand on the slide.
There's like a bunch of stuff that we were supposed to be showing here. Absorb it quickly, everyone.
There we go. So we've added lots of aluminum, titanium, and agricium. In the entries that you see on the screen marked system, all of the moons now have deposits. We've added a bit more laranite, but it's still pretty rare. We've also added a lot of new refineries. We've added cooler and quantum drive recipes to most factories, and they require aluminum, laranite, titanium, and agricium. The demand for coolers and quantum drives has been introduced, and we've also increased the demand for power plants. And lastly, we've increased, you can see there at the bottom of the screen, the number of quanta from 1,000 to 2,000 so that we've got enough workers to keep the economy humming. Now, previously, we've seen pretty obvious cause and effect. At this point, though, the economy is starting to get pretty complicated. And we can look at a few graphs to just see what's going on with some of the prices to see this. And this is one of the most interesting things about a really complicated economy, which is these changes in quantities and prices, the purposeful movement of quanta, this dynamism. These are all opportunities that you're going to be able to exploit within the game, and they're in constant logical motion. So, let's hit the next one.
Be a shame if somebody came to steal from these people, huh?
Yep, we'll bring up the slide.
Oh, okay.
You gotta bring the slide. All right, so now we've introduced some pirates. Let's go ahead, and so you can see that there are 4 pirate kraken. There's the Nova Riders, Low Riders, Nine Tails, and Dusters. Pirates have to return to one of their bases in order to refuel, rearm. Let's go ahead. If you notice, they head to the areas of highest value. Let's go ahead and zoom in there. And you can see that those are missions being created by the NPCs, no different than players would. In other words, you see a lot of deaths on a route that's got a lot of value. And go ahead and hover over some of those contracts. These are contracts that are being thrown out by the NPCs on that route. What's happening is the NPCs are basically being, some of the freighters are being picked on by the pirates, the ship is being destroyed, and now that NPC has ejected and needs transport back to civilization. And so they're requesting that. And these are missions that would be fed back into the game that you'd see, and you could wind up accepting these. let's go ahead and take a look at Hurston, the coolers and
Guys,
quantum drives.
check this out. This is where they're operating out of, you guys. Right. What do you want to go check out?
The Hurston, let's look at what happened to the cooler and quantum drives.
Oh, yeah.
So since we've now got a lot of pirate activity on that route, we want to see what's happening to the cost of some of those goods.
For a cool $500,000 UEC, you can get yourself your own power plant.
Yeah, I can barely see that.
It's actually normal. Piracy is really terrible for economics, you guys. So,
yeah. So let's go ahead now.
You can really see it over at the coolers where it started at like a really reasonable thing. Like
yeah, that's pegged. It's the scale. So basically, they were down around 1,000, 2,000, and now they just absolutely skyrocketed in price because so many of the freighters moving, whether it's supplies or moving, the finished product from one location to another, are now being intercepted. And these quanta, as I mentioned earlier, it's like they have various traits, and some of them are very risk averse, and they won't go down routes where there's a significant chance of death. And so to counteract some of this danger, let's go ahead and bring in someone to fight the pirates. So here comes some security. And what you'll notice is that security is drawn to areas of conflict where there's a lot of deaths and such. So they're going to wind up gravitating towards those areas where there's a lot of piracy. And there you can see them. Go ahead and over. Go speed it up a little bit, not 200. It's 200 is too fast. It's difficult to tell what's going on. And if you notice, by the way, the police will wind up patrolling an area, so they're in constant motion, whereas the pirates basically are enabling quantum interdiction fields. That's why they're basically picking a route on, they're picking a particular location on the route between, between two locations, and they're basically, lying in wait. And the security, which doesn't know exactly where they are, is scanning the area looking for them. And so what you notice here is that the pirate situation is starting to look a lot better now that security's shown up. And you would see this reflected over in the prices. And so what you have here is a perpetual game of cat and mouse, to where the pirates look for the areas where they can reap the largest rewards with the least amount of risk, and security is then drawn to them. And as soon as you get enough pushback from the system in terms of security, then the pirates look for more opportunistic pastures. And again, this is very much like what you would expect to see in any logical functioning system. So let's go ahead and turn on the grid. And what you're looking at here is one of the big problems I referred to earlier is how we wind up getting samplings of this, of how we generate probability volumes. And so what this is showing you is we can look at one of these high conflict areas, and it's basically tabulating exactly what's in that area. So you can see that there are 10 total quanta, 1 freighter, 11 pirates, 5 security. It also shows you the total value being transported. You know exactly what's going down that route. Let's take a look at a few other locations. Here you see the security and pirates are fairly even. 6 pirates, 7 security. A decent amount of value, 6 freighters. So there's actually an almost equivalent number of freighters, pirates, and security. This is the information that quantum, and it's a small piece of the whole, this is what it would wind up feeding periodically to the probability volume services, so that designers no longer need to go in and say, oh, well, we're going to hard code a certain amount of security, a certain amount of freighters, and it can never change. We ship it, that's all it's ever going to be. In this case, the simulation is running, it's constantly ebbing and flowing. And your actions over on the game side get factored into this result, just like any of the quanta in this simulation. So for years we've had just the back-end services and the game servers. And the fundamental problem was that we didn't have a single area where the entire game could be simulated, where NPCs could request goods and services because they have a legitimate economic need and could vie with players to provide those things. We didn't have a way for this activity to determine what you see as you wander around the universe, thus eliminating the need to spend enormous sums of effort configuring vast quantities of static data that could never deliver the dynamic experience we really wanted. Quantum solves all of these issues. It also provides us with a lot more context, which means that concepts not previously understood, like how much risk there is in taking an item from point A to point B, can now be easily calculated. Information like this is vitally important to the price discovery machinery, and as I spoke about earlier, in a properly functioning economy, such things can and will generate a lot of ripples. We also get the information necessary to properly customize mission content, meaning we can deliver a lot more environmental and mission diversity without having to do any more work. I've covered a few of the large areas that quantum will impact, but the effects will be felt far wider. How many NPCs you see at a landing zone, for example, and what they're doing can now change over time. Manufacturing towns might boom and bust depending upon how much commerce is passing through them at any given moment. NPCs can grow and evolve separately from their interactions with players into powerful bosses potentially, and you'll be able to witness their growth in lots of different ways. Criminal NPCs with a price on their head can move around the universe just like a player, making trying to catch them that much more fun. We've got a lot more work to do before Quantum is ready for integration with the rest of the game, but it's one of the last big steps in setting us up for a completely dynamic and systemic universe. Thanks for listening.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Animal Launch, and I'm here with Molly.
Hi.
And Chris.
Hi.
Molly, you came from Austin all the way to Manchester for
Yeah.
CitizenCon.
Yes, I did.
How was the trip?
It was great. It actually didn't seem it seemed kind of long, but compared to some of the backers that we met this weekend who traveled from Australia and a couple from Canada who had a pretty long trip too, it didn't seem as bad.
Yeah. Chris here from the German office.
Yeah, and I arrived on Wednesday, but I had to travel with Deutsche Bahn to the Frankfurt airport, and that was kind of tricky, but I made it here in time.
Awesome. Glad you could make it. And Molly, what was your favorite moment of CitizenCon 2949 so far? I mean, the keynote's still coming up.
The keynote, I think, watch the keynote. I'm really excited for that. But overall, so far, the community booths have just been fantastic. We just did cosplay, and that was amazing as well. But the community booths took so much time and set up. All of those orgs and communities who have set up for us have just planned for months and months and gone through processes of review, and for it finally to work out fantastically. That was awesome. And every booth had a ton of people checking it out today, so that was really great to see.
Yeah, and we went from 4 community booths last year to 14.
14 this year. And maybe next year even more. We don't know.
What do you think? Okay, cool. Chris, what was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment was Theaters of War, and I'm sure this is my new favorite game mode.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I can't wait to play it with my friends. And it was so amazing just to see all the backers getting their hands on it first time. And I think they really like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You talked to a lot of backers?
Yeah, actually, I, after they played, I asked them, hey, did you like it? Didn't you like it? What was good? What was bad? And they gave us really, really good feedback.
And when you played it yourself, did you win?
No, literally.
I played it yesterday for 10 minutes. I won, right?
won?
Had a positive kill-death ratio of 5 to 3.
That's a win. Yeah, we'll call that. That's a win.
We'll test this again at the office.
Okay. So my favorite moment of CitizenCon 2949 was the bar sitting yesterday and meeting all the people, right?
It's incredible.
Because like throughout the whole year, you don't see those people. You do have them on Spectrum, you have them on Twitter, Discord, Reddit, but actually putting a face to the name, that's the most exciting part of CitizenCon. And it's always like, you know, a family gathering, because we see each other like maybe once at Gamescom, maybe at CitizenCon, at a bar Citizen, but CitizenCon is always the best thing for that. And talking about community, we have a couple of people over there.
Yeah, I think I see Board Gamer. What?
Get in.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Board.
Hello.
What was your favorite moment of this year's CitizenCon?
So are you talking about panels or just general experiences?
Everything.
Everything. So I got to be in the first group for the Theatres of War, which is like a Battlefield 5 Rush style gameplay mode, and it has a huge amount of potential because it has the scale of Star Citizen behind it. Needs polish, but it was an absolutely amazing experience. But really, for me, I love these community events. You can have my voice is destroyed, I do apologise. You can have a fan fest like this for the game in an alpha at this stage with so many enthusiastic people that are all talking about all their dreams or different aspects of the game. Loads of organisations coming together. It's genuinely amazing. I've been to some of the E-fan fests and stuff like that as well, but Star Citizen for me, I'm in love with the community, and that's why I play the game. That's why I cover the game. It's been fantastic, and this is my favourite CitizenCon ever, although admittedly only my second. So.
And panel-wise, what's your favorite panel?
So I haven't watched the Tony Zerovic one yet because I'm not competent enough to watch it while I'm this tired. I need to watch it like 3 times. I did watch the ship panel. That was great, but I think it's going to be the keynote that's going to be on in a minute. I mean, I'm ready for it.
Awesome. Let's bring in more people, actually.
Okay.
Just stay.
What about our cosplayers? Maybe.
Yeah, get in
guys,
here. Get in.
You want to get in here?
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
There's enough space for all of us. All right, guys. Did you enjoy CitizenCon?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it's been amazing. Amazing.
Absolutely loved it. Brilliant day. Brilliant day.
What was your favorite moment of the day?
I think just the atmosphere, the community. It's. I've been to a lot of conventions over the years, and the community here is so friendly. Everyone's welcoming, and it's just been a brilliant day.
Awesome. What about you?
For me, it was the anticipation of the Carrick, because when I was here, kind of with it all covered up, with everybody going, "Is that the Carrick? Is that the Carrick?" I was like, "I can't tell you. You'll find out in 1,300 hours." And then when we finally did reveal it, the excitement of everybody being able to see it and stuff was, incredible.
Awesome. What about you? Come in here. What was your favorite moment of CitizenCon?
It was a little microcosm, I think, of Star Citizen as a whole, which is all of us cosplayers that had a whole room put up for us, and they laid it out, and they took care of us, and everyone's helping each other out and just being super cool. And that's Star Citizen. That's all the people I've met online playing this game. That's every single one of them. So today's an awesome day because you get to see the real faces for the people that you've met online, and it's, good stuff.
Awesome. Let's see if we can get more people in here. Get in.
He's got the
Hey, how are you?
Morningstar helmet.
What was your favorite moment of CitizenCon?
He actually won the costume
My favorite moments
contest.
was seeing the game actually come to life and seeing everything that we've worked on for so long, like actually in person, and like the market stalls, and actually seeing how it's like that in game and seeing it here in person. It's astonishing. I love it.
Did you get to watch any of the panels as well?
Yeah, my favorite one was the cosplay one. Like, I loved seeing the guys, and it looks amazing. Like, it's so impressive. Like, I could never do that. So seeing people bring the things that we work on to life is so astonishing.
Right. Molly, that was the cosplay panel was the best.
I know, it was
Did you
really
hear that?
just fantastic. The judges and you guys made it so special this year. I can't wait to
Giant
see what
white
everybody
wasn't at
does
the
next year. It was just phenomenal overall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian, come in here.
We're just pulling people in.
Hey, Ulf.
Hey, Brian. How was CitizenCon this year for you?
It's still going on, man, and it's awesome. It's every year we seem to kick it up a little bit more. Every year you kind of see a little more passion from the people that show up and their enthusiasm behind everything, and yeah, it's been good. I didn't get a chance to catch any of the panels because I've been running around all day, but the awesome part is they'll all be on YouTube really soon, right?
Really soon.
That's cool. Yeah, so it's been awesome. It's been a really good time.
Did you get a selfie on the mosaic as well?
No, I didn't. Somebody, at first when I got here this morning, I was like, what's that board? I have no idea. And they're like, oh, just, tweet and hashtag. And I meant to, and I didn't.
Well,
but it's almost full.
You can still do it, though.
Yeah.
You just snap a selfie. We can do it right now if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
You tag it with CitizenCon, and then it's going to appear over there.
But hold on. Can we, if we do this, can we turn and have the camera in the background? Because then it'll be more real.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
They're going to see our backs, though.
Yeah, just for 1 second.
Okay.
Well, maybe just like a profile.
Just excuses. Awesome.
I gave my serious look. Yeah.
I did not.
I'll tweet that when I'm done here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
That's a hashtag CitizenCon with a capital C and a capital C.
Capital C, capital C.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just heard that the keynote is now, or that Jared is now ready. So let's throw it over back to him.
What the hell is Laranite anyway? I'm sorry, just listening to Tony Zervek's presentation the whole time, I went galaxy brain for about all of it. And I literally, like, through all the panels here, I'm writing a bunch of notes to do follow-up questions. I wrote, what the hell is Laranite anyway? That's all I had for his entire thing. So, Tony, Jake, thank you so much for that presentation. And to everybody in the Twitch chat, that's not a toy you get to play with. That's a toy we get to play with. You don't get to do the things, we do the things. 9 things are for you, 1 thing is for us. That's how that works. All right. So we are still setting up for the closing finale, the closing ceremonies, the keynote, the demo part 2, whatever the heck you want to call it. We are still setting up for that. So we are in filler mode. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
We have our esteemed panel of colleagues here. We've been referring to them affectionately internally as the Peanut Gallery. I did not name that. The person who named it included me in it. Immediately to my left here, we have Vehicle Pipeline Director John Crew.
Hello.
Mhm.
Come on, Twitch, get caught up. 25,000. Really? Okay.
Yeah, now your panel had the Carrack.
Yep. The Pisces.
The Pisces.
The Kraken Privateer.
The Kraken Privateer. The reveal of the Argo Mole.
And backer interaction for deciding one of 4 new ships.
And everybody left to go to Tony.
I don't know why everybody left, because I finished my panel and then came here and sat here and watched.
We were like counter-programming. No.
Nope.
You can't withstand Tony that.
Nope, it's
Zervek.
too powerful.
Yeah. All right. Richard, while you weren't on a panel, you were obviously instrumental in the creation, the development of Theaters of War.
I was on a panel.
What panel were you on? I don't remember.
Character archetypes.
Oh, I was in the other theater. How'd that go?
Talked about armor and player status and how we get the beautiful armor in game and adding gameplay to it. But mainly Theaters of War.
There's a
Theaters of War Room.
Now, the character archetype panel was kind of an offshoot of Theaters of War. It was all the work that's being done for the different character classes or the different armor classes.
Well, that was more of a in general talk really about how, because obviously it was me and the character guys, so that was technical art, technical animation, and obviously concept art. So with Jeremiah, obviously with myself, it starts with the design process. Then obviously that goes to Jeremiah in terms of concept, and then to Shane in terms of obviously making that concept into a reality, and then obviously it goes to Gage in terms of technical animation, in terms of bringing that reality to life. So that was kind of the whole process, and it was really interesting, in-depth talk about taking that through, and how that, going forward, that we're starting to apply gameplay to these armors, because, for example, like heavy armor now, your choice really is you're picking based off which you like best, which looks the best. But we want to add meaningful choices so that you're saying, actually, this armor has this particular parameters, and it gives me this, different gameplay options. So in terms of inventory, in terms of climate control, and how that ties into player status as a whole. So yeah, it was really cool.
And going back to you, John, since nobody was there, how's the Carrack doing?
Carrack's doing fine. We saw it earlier today. In the talk, we ran through some of the other areas we didn't see this morning. And yeah, it's coming in February. We just want to, rather than just try and hit 3.8 with it and deliver it in a state that we weren't happy with, but to spend the extra time, polish it up more, and deliver it to the hype that is built up for your favorite ship.
We've been very... Okay. All right. I made 2 very bad bets with the community in my life. One was I won't shave until 3.0 came out. And the other one was, yeah, community, you can pick my favorite ship in the YouTube comments. I don't give a heck. And I've been saddled with this when Shane Hessler, who is a member of the character team, who was supposed to be the third judge for the cosplay competition, fell ill. Fell ill immediately before. It was a last minute thing. They're like, Jared, will you fill in? And I'm like, okay, let me change my clothes and I'll be somebody else. They threw me this Carrick shirt. So this wonderful Carrick shirt. It's actually really nice. I think they were available for purchase in the Kasaba outlet. I have no idea if any are left over, but it's really nice. It's it's an okay ship. Okay ship. But where was I going with that? The Pisces.
Yes.
The Pisces we also talked about. Now, one of the things that's recently been revealed is that there are actually 2 variants of the Pisces.
Yeah, so there's the C8, which is what everyone that owns a Carrack gets with it. It's the original. So the Carracks are ex-military, sold to civilian ships. So the C8 Pisces is the sort of military version sold to civilians. So it's slightly stripped down. And the C8 Expedition is the original version of it. Fundamentally, it just has 2 more guns and a white paint job. That's about the difference between the two.
Yeah, but 2 more guns.
2 more guns. Neither of them are snub ships. They are fully fledged ships. They have quantum drives. They have space for a jump module. So you can use.
Let's hear it.
You can use it for proper exploration.
You forgive me. I've been broadcasting all day with bronchitis. I have to do this.
That bottle was full of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is my 3rd bottle. So the Carrack wasn't OP enough. You had to take the Snubcraft and make it a fully fledged ship as well?
Why not?
What are you doing?
Well, they wouldn't let me make it bigger again, so I had to do something else.
I want to talk a little bit about the push to February.
Yeah.
Now, we've been very candid in the past. We've been very candid about a lot of things. Some of the ships that have released in the past, maybe were pushed out a little before their time.
Yeah.
Cutlass! Oh, I gotta do that again. What ship came out before their time? Cutlass! So which necessitated a rework.
Yeah.
Part of our new initiative, part of the continuing refinement of the vehicle pipeline is to try to avoid situations like that in the past. And that means that while, yes, we certainly want ships like the Cutlass, like the Carrack rather, to come out right when 3.8 is, rather than push it, rather than rush it, rather than cut corners, rather than have to go back and redo it later on. It's more important to us that we take the time to do these things right, especially with a ship that has as much weight with the community as the Carrack. I'm going to ask all 3 of you this. I know you guys aren't ship people, but I'm curious what your opinions are. And Mike, you got to do something. Why do you think the Carrack resonates so much with the community?
I think it's because it's that ship that does a bit of everything. It's got everything in the kitchen sink in it, so it allows you to do a bit of cargo trading. You've got a medical facility on board, so you can do a bit of healing. You've got a repair facility on board, so you can do a bit of repairing. Scanners. It's got everything for you and your friends to do.
Shields in the cockpit.
Shields in the cockpit.
The antenna things that go.
Yep.
Will they go?
They will. They'll make that noise. Get the audio to pump up.
Will they?
Yeah. If you go back there and Phil will record you.
Sean Tracy absolutely recorded the voiceover for Theaters of War, didn't he?
He didn't.
Did? Yeah.
He didn't. It sounded just like him.
It's definitely him.
Yeah, a Doppler. Doppler.
If he can do that, I can do the for the Carrack. Please. That would be my sweet revenge for all these. Yes. Oh, wait. Phil Smallwood, audio director, you're in here somewhere. Let me do the for the Carrack. Be my revenge for that beard. All right. Richard, when we were talking about Theaters of War, a lot of the comments in the Twitch chat were, and we touched a little bit about this, but I want to hit it again, especially since we got time. Hey, we got time. Why is it important that we do things like Theaters of War? It can easily be argued that we should just keep pushing forward on the present years, and we certainly are. But why is it important that we also develop something like Theaters of War alongside it?
Well, to be honest, if you look at, say, Star Marine and Arena Commander, why they were actually created in the first place was to give us kind of that petri dish, that focused experience so that we could actually look at it as developers, give that to the community and say, how do you like it? Do you want to go this way? How, get that feedback. And Theatre War is kind of the extended journey of that. It started off, we got Arena Command and Star Marine, and what's the natural progression of those is you put them together. And when you put them together, that's what the experience that we're trying to deliver on the PU. So Theatre War allows us to get it out there as soon as possible. I know Sean wants to get it out there as soon as possible.
Yeah, I know. He removed the win on his card and he went rogue.
Yeah.
Sean, are you in here?
He is.
Yeah, you are.
But, it's an incredible... Basically, it allows us, as the devs, to actually get in there and, not have to load up the PU and go through all the steps to coordinate everybody into the same space and go through that process. So, from our perspective, it allows us to be really efficient and get absolute feedback on the combat, the balancing, between the players on foot to ground vehicles to ships and how that all coordinates together. Because, the beauty of Star Citizen is that we're not just making a space game, we're not just making an FPS, or Tony's economy, and it's all of those things that come together, all the different ingredients. That's why it makes Star Citizen so unique, in terms of the scale, the tech, Ian's pine trees, he loves those.
He loves those pine trees.
All
He
of
would
that
not
stuff.
Shut up about the pine trees.
But you look at all of that, and together, it's incredible. And then you add the incredible community on top of that, giving us all the amazing feedback, telling us, what they like, what they don't like. And, it's just no other game. No other game. Incredible.
So, Ian was originally a member of the Peanut Gallery, and we were doing rehearsals yesterday. I'll give you a little behind-the-scenes stuff. And Ian was not meant to be part of the demo presentation, whatnot. And Chris just kind of saw him over here. We were here to fill time like this, and Chris saw him and goes, Ian, come over here and talk about this stuff. And there's no audience. There's no audience at all. And Ian just walked up there, and he went on for what must have been 6 minutes on the pine trees yesterday. And we're all just kind of watching them. It's like, the beautiful pine trees. They work so hard. I mean, I'm not going to try to do my Ian Lee impersonation here, especially with bronchitis. But it was very clear that he takes a tremendous amount of pride in his team's work. And his team, if I'm allowed to have an opinion, not only meets expectations, but exceeds them quite often. And Planet V4 is a remarkable example of that.
I mean, to be honest, that level of detail, that level of attention is what makes it the next level. We're dealing with the scale of an entire universe. We're not just talking like these tiny little planets. I always have the analogy like in the 90s, you say, oh, I see that mountain over there, and you can't get to it because it's just a skybox. Yeah. And then like early 2000s, you get the games and you say, oh yeah, you can go to that mountain now. But Star Citizen's like, oh no, not that mountain. You see that moon? Yeah, you can go there, and you can keep going. And it's an incredible level, but even the smallest detail, the smallest, the plants, the trees, all the props, there's a massive amount of work that goes into making that level of detail on that scale. And, that's why it's mind-blowing. I mean, from my perspective, on the design side, when I see all the art come on, it's just incredible to just gets layered on top, and it makes everything so much better.
And it's not just working at the scale, it's working at the efficiency of scale. Like we
Absolutely.
talked about the Good Doctor map. The Good Doctor map is, it's a relatively small map compared to the Theaters of War map. What was it called? The Campaign of Carnage or Crime of...
Oh, Crossroads of Crime.
Crossroads of Crime, very alliterative. But that smaller Good Doctor map is on a planet. And even though you can't explore the planet, but I was talking to Sean about it, I don't remember.
It's actually easier, though.
It's actually easier.
I mean, if you go back to like standard game dev, it's like no, you skybox, But for us, the tech's there for us to actually expand, and that's why we're developing this foundational tech, because that's what allows us to create such scale. So when we were coming to the Good Doctor, it was like, well, we'll just pull a map in, pull a planet in, and we were going, within like half an hour, we're going, you change the atmosphere, you change how the actual dispersion of the assets happen, and then all of a sudden you've got something up and running. So you know, there's no point in us, you know, it's nothing's fake. It's all there.
You're right
It's-
about it being
it's
easy.
optimized. Yeah.
It's like the effects are already there as well. You know?
Exactly. So, you know, all the atmosphere and the sun that is there, you know, you're moving the sun, that's the physical sun. You know, you could actually fly to that sun. I mean, some people have actually The Good Doctor is obviously that map, but they've broken out and they're like, yeah, we're going. But yeah, it's good. It's exciting.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Mike is up here for a very specific reason, but we can't tell you what that reason is yet. So,
I just came here to have the makeup applied to my face.
How's your day been?
Look great. It's really nice.
Oh yeah.
How's your day been?
Sorry?
How's your day been?
It's been fantastic, actually. It's been great. I've, loved seeing the demo one at the start. I've seen a few of the presentations. Just kind of soak up the atmosphere.
Did you check out the marketplace?
Yes, I did. It was
Did you see
amazing.
your Fizz hologram?
Tried to take a video of it, but obviously it's a hologram, so...
Yeah, you got the refresh rate on your video.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It was amazing, yeah.
All right, now, John, you talked to Carrick in your presentation. I'm not going to make you go through the whole presentation, especially since you don't have the slides and whatever. And of course, it'll be up on YouTube in the coming days. I don't know if it's days or in the next week. I don't have that schedule with me, but all those presentations from the Croshaw Auditorium, which were, hey, let's do that. Xenolinguistics and You, Ship Sounds, Locked Up, which was about prison gameplay. Really exciting stuff. I'm really excited for you guys to see the Locked Up one. There's a lot there. Me, Myself, and UI, which was about the UI improvements, some of which we saw during the demo earlier today with the new actor status improvements, stuff like that, the new building block stuff. Armor Archetypes, which followed up on the Theaters of War stuff, and of course your Ship Talk, which was a bunch of Carrick talk, Pisces talk,
Kraken Privateer.
Kraken Privateer. Let's talk about the Kraken Privateer.
Yep, so the Kraken Privateer is a variant of the Kraken that we unveiled last year at CitizenCon. So the one we showed last year was sort of the cargo freighter mobile outpost version, so you could just ship a humongous amount of stuff around the universe, or you could just dump it on a planet and you've got your mobile org base. The Privateer sort of takes that concept and turns it into what could be best described as a mobile space station. You take out about 80% of the cargo and you fill it with modular shops. Like Ian has showed the modular space stations with those shops, the same sort of process. So it's like a competitor to the Merchantman, and they're going to use the same sort of shopping systems. So you've got your alien style one and your more human one, and it's pretty interesting.
And then last, because I'm being told that they are just about ready, tell us a little bit about the mole.
So the Argo Mole, which stands for Multi-Operator Laser Extractor, is a multi-crew medium mining ship. It's got a crew of 4, has 3 mining turrets on it, so not gun turrets, mining turrets. It's got double the capacity of the Prospector. It uses the same style Prospector bags, but it allows a crew to tackle those rocks that you need multiple Prospectors to crack.
Okay, so if you're a miner,
the mole
you
can
might
come
like
along and
that.
just do them by itself, or you can use 3 turrets and just tackle 3 things at the same time.
So it sounds like the mole sits between the Prospector and the Orion.
It nicely bridges the gap between the Prospector and the Orion.
All right.
That's cool.
All right.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, comes out in 3.8.
Comes out in 3.8, straight to flyable.
Straight to flyable.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. You ready? I said, are you ready? I have been here with bronchitis all day. Are you ready? All right, that sounded ready. Do the thing.
All right. Hello again.
Carrot trailer.
So, anyway, I was just going to say, hopefully you guys have had a good day so far. There's been a lot of really cool panels. I think Tony Z's last one was pretty cool. It's showing you how we're going to have a very dynamic universe on a high level. And obviously the stuff we had with the various things like the Planet Tech V4, ships, characters, UI. So hopefully you guys got to see some of that. And the marketplace was great. You guys are always great. Well, this is the end. So hopefully we've got something special for the end for you guys. So last year, at the end of CitizenCon, I had the sort of road to release roadmap. As of last year, we said, well, we've achieved 7 of those 12 that we'd set out to do, starting with the hangar and going all the way to location persistence and Planet Tech. But since then, we delivered the OCS and band culling at the end of last year, which I think made a big difference on the client performance. We got a few things that we're doing this year. So if I go. So we've showed it, but Planet Tech 3.5 was what we did last year. Sorry, I'm behind on the... Can I not get this up here? Otherwise I'm going to have to look up here. Forget about it. So we had ship purchases, ship rentals, which is actually quite cool because you don't have to buy with cash any of the ships. You can rent or purchase them with the money you're earning in the game. And we've also been shifting to quality of life, staggered development, which is, you saw a little bit of that in Alpha 3.7. We're more serious about that. So we've moved the teams to 6-month cycles. We're still delivering patches every 3 months, but the teams themselves get 6 months to work on their features or their content that will go into whatever patch they're sort of designated for. And I think it gives them more time to do good work and iterate and give you a better experience. And we're slowly working on aspects of the gameplay, in terms of, say, the feel of flight or the feel of combat. We're doing things like, Sean was showing the sort of theaters of war where that's a good sort of contained mode that will allow us to sort of fine-tune what's really cool about Star Citizen, which is sort of the mixed arms, the ability to be on the ground or in a vehicle or up in space. And so we are increasing our focus to make sure that the game experience now is, 3.7 I think is probably our most stable release today. But the game experience now is good and then is just improving as we go on. So this is what's coming up next. So in 3.8, we are going to have the very first iteration of server-side OCS. So and you guys didn't know it because we didn't want to spoil the thing, but the demo we ran this morning was running it, and this, what we're running right now, is running socks, and you'll understand why it's important as we get into the demo. Assuming it doesn't crash, which, you never know. To let you know, so it's the first iteration of the server-side OCS. So we have server persistence in the session of the server. So the server, whenever it leaves an area, it streams stuff out. It remembers the state of all the items and all the stuff that was there at that time, but it doesn't persist beyond the server session. The bigger thing, which we've talked about in the future, is sort of the iCache, which is the full persistence. Hang on, what happened here? Weird. I don't know, it's not me. This is why I was on this main screen here. I've got a black screen here and a black screen here. Anyway, so I'll talk about persistence. So, okay, now we're back up. So platform persistence is one other thing that we're putting in the 3.8, which is is basically a halfway house to the very full persistence, but the platform persistence is going to allow us to save off the alpha UEC that you've earned. Also, any items or ships that you've bought or rented in the game are going to... So they're going to get saved off to the platform in the same way that we record all your shop cash purchases. And so when a new release comes, we can re-entitle it back to the account in the same way we do for everything that you do. And the plan with that is to not have to wipe between iterative releases on a major release, and potentially even from one release to the next, And we do reserve the right if there's like a major issue or a major rebalance, or we have to redo the database on a major release, then at that particular time we may have to wipe it. But in general, the goal is to let you guys make money in the game, earn things, collect things, and not have it wiped every time we do a new release. So,
but I do want to wipe before.
So we're aiming to ship that with that will hopefully be that should be with the 3.8 patch cycle, and now Planet Tech V4, which we obviously sort of unveiled at the beginning, and there was some really cool panels about it during the day, which I think is gonna, just the quality of not just Microtech, but going back to the old places like Daymar or Selon is whole new world. One of the focuses we got upcoming too, which we not particularly managed to show well this morning, is the social group gameplay, but that is a focus for us to make sure that the FOIP and the VoIP and the group gameplay stuff works well. It's important for us to get stuff working for, as Sean mentioned, for the Theaters of War, but just in general, grouping up with your friends in the universe, doing stuff. And so that is a focus, and you'll see us iterating on that for 3.8, 3.9, and onwards. More robust missions. So we've got some stuff coming up in 3.8 that is interesting. We're starting to introduce AI into some of the missions, like say the rescue the hostage on the 890, which we had in an ATV. We were showing a very early version of it. That will be in 3.8, and there'll be some other ones along that line of missions, and that's multi-part missions, which also what we're showing is sort of an early version of a multi-part mission, what we showed at the beginning and we're going to end with here, that 3.9.40 onwards. Then, sometime around about middle of this year, I think, so full universe persistence, and that is the persistence that allows us to save everything, period. So you can take your coffee mug that you've got in the Carrack and explore on a planet and drop it in a forest, get back on your Carrack, fly away, and someone else could go to that forest and see that coffee mug, or you could come back and see it if someone else hasn't stolen it. And so and that iterates to every dynamic item in the game gets saved off. So basically, we save the state, it goes back to a cloud database. It's what we're calling the iCache. Of course, there'll be some stuff like, we want to be smart where like people can't like stack 1,000 turtles in a place. So obviously, we'll have some policies on the items. So at some point, when we're saving it to the database, we'll say, well, this is a low importance item. There's too many in this area. So therefore, and this one's been around too long, so we just won't bother saving that to the database. And then you'll just sort of be like, oh, someone came along while you weren't there and took the turtle or cleaned it up. But in general, so the permanent structures. So one thing that gives us is the ability for you as players to go around the universe and ultimately, you want to create your own base somewhere, create your own homestead. You should be able to settle down and put a base there, and it will be recorded back to the iCache, and you can come back to it, and it will be there, and it will persist. And so I think the opportunity for emergent gameplay that comes from that is going to be fantastic, because as you saw with what Tony was doing in his presentation before, we're going to have dynamic resources in the universe. We're also going to persist those. So they'll be finite, so there'll be only so much gold or hadonite or whatever it is on various moons or planets. And as they get mined out, then you'll have to find some other place to move to it. And there's an especially rich seam. I can see a group of players coming, setting up camp there and starting to mine the resources. And then I can see some other groups saying, oh, well, that's great. I want some of that. They show up, and you basically have two groups battling out. And then there's a whole business that's going to be involved in supplying more weapons or logistics or healing people or bringing consumables that people need. So I think there's going to be this dynamic evolving system that will be incredibly interesting and compelling, and I'm really looking forward to that. And that's enabled by the full universe persistence, which is, like I said, the full persistence of all items, ships, characters and also persistent tracking of the resources. And then the last thing, which we won't, I think, get to by the end of next year, but we'll be very close to it, is server meshing. And so everything we've been doing up until then, and that's when I think everything fully comes alive, is the server meshing allows us to have a lot more players in the same area. But the work that we've done on the kind of server-side OCS, where you can change the point of view of the server arbitrarily anywhere around and save off state, is exactly what you need for server meshing. Because what happens in a server, if more people arrive, say, I don't know, in New Babbage, and you suddenly go, oh, you know, we can only run 100 people or 200 people or whatever the number we can simulate on the server, and there's now 201 people, you say, okay, I'm going to spin up a second server. Here's another view onto New Babbage, and these players are on that, and you just keep on spinning up more to take on the load in areas. And so that's why we needed the server OCS and the bind culling and the full persistence, and it enables server meshing. So that's the next thing. Once we deliver the full persistence, we're actually already starting to work on the network side of what we need for the server meshing right now. But we're really excited about that, because then that's going to allow a sort of dynamic, seamless universe that won't have the same player count restrictions. And by the way, we'll also, we don't know quite with server OCS what we'll be able to do, but we're going to start experimenting with some player counts in the future and maybe upping it, because at the end of the day, if we're not simulating the whole system and it's a smaller subset of that, we'll be able to have more players. So we'll see in the midterm if we get more players into a server right now, but longer term server meshing is what's going to allow us to really have a fully dynamic universe. And then on the smaller things that we're going to be working on is, obviously, you know, I've talked about the quality of life. It's an ongoing effort for us. You're only starting to see the very, very beginnings of it. So we have some dedicated teams that just focus on the quality of life. We have what we call the vehicle experience team that we're working on things to improve how it feels operating and running a vehicle. I mentioned that there was a couple of things like the look ahead, some small stuff that we showed in the opening, but there's a lot more stuff to come, and also in terms of, you know, the feel of combat and all the rest of the stuff. We're going to be adding, obviously, more loops. I think next up we've got sort of fueling, refueling, fuel collection. Then it'll be salvage, more content, obviously, and then open up a bit. We'll see what happens. All right. So now we've done that, we're going to head into our demo. But at first, let's just recap and we'll get Todd Pappy up here with me, wherever he is. Hello, Pappy. Come on. There we go. All right. So, just in any good TV show, all right. So we're on the Microtech shuttle to the lab.
Can we go full screen, please? Thank you.
Need to get that. Can we get the quadrant? Right. And by the way, Glenn is actually on a AI flown ship here. So, and that is something longer term that we're going to be working on, which is AI doing things like taking your shuttle from a space station down to the ground, or various locations that you could go to without having to fly to yourself. So think of it as a bigger version of the transit system. And here's one of the things that I think Ian's talked about, we've talked about, is that we want to increase our range of, we have outposts, but they're pretty small, and we want to have points of interest that you would have in various planets or moons that you can have mission content in, things to do, and this is sort of this is a sort of first prototype of that.
Yeah, so basically multiple entries, multiple exits. Obviously with outposts, you got one way in, one way out. So for us, from a design standpoint, this allows us to build these in a modular way so that we can have different entrances, different exits, different room layouts, different mission content associated with it. From there, then we start looking towards towns and villages, and then obviously we have our main cities.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a prototype, first version of a sort of multi-part mission that we discussed and thinking about doing in the longer term, not 3.8 obviously, but 3.9 or on beyond that.
He's got 5
Of course,
minutes.
it's cold here in Microtech.
Negative 62 degrees. Love the new buttons.
So you'll see, now that we've entered into the room, the temperature that the character feels changes, and he actually starts returning back to normal.
All right.
Test facility.
So hopefully our trusty ID card still works. I'm willing to say it does. And we take a look out the side, Glenn, out the window a bit, when you out the window out here. So one other thing, which we're going to get into a little further, but if we actually take a look outside, the other thing that we're showing here is dynamic weather.
Yes.
And so actually there is a ground snowstorm blowing in. Can you look out the window a little bit, Glenn? Or not? Glenn?
Glenn, can you look out the window?
Just take a look out the window quickly. So if you take a look, if we go take a look out here, it's where the trees, go to the left a little bit. Should be, I think. There, so you can see. So, all right, we carry on. So there's a storm blowing in right now. Come to that in a bit back. But the weather simulation takes into account the humidity, the wind, temperature.
Yes,
right?
all of that.
And it is dynamic. So it's set up so not going to have. We've got a couple of elements still to come on the fully dynamic planetary weather, which would be volumetric planetary crowds and volumetric ground fog. We have a large amount of the pieces in place for our weather sims, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's carry on with our mission. So we're gonna go look for the data center to try and steal the algorithm.
So it says it in the demo, or basically in the mission briefing, that you're looking for server number 5. So we'll be looking around and getting closer and working our way over there.
And try not to be too conspicuous. And the idea with these kind of missions in the longer term is to have the ability to do like stealth gameplay instead of combat gameplay, so solve some puzzles. Yes. So it's not just going to be about shooting people all the time.
Well, and it's something that Tony and you and I have talked about a long time ago, which is basically breadcrumbs as well. So it opens up to other aspects.
So we want a sort of combination of sort of the procedural dynamic stuff that would be generated by the universe simulation that Tony was showing earlier, plus some more crafted, multi-stage, kind of more narrative missions, and they all get mixed in to give you a really sort of nice flavor and variety of things to do. So, like, we need to figure out a good way. We're gonna we kind of know a good way, but as a game player, you would actually have to suss this out. So we're gonna go back here in the maintenance area. Great. Very quiet, great.
Yes. In the future, obviously, the AI will have certain stims that they can react to, and you know, audio is one of them. Having certain objects that the player places around would be another way to distract AI.
And then, you know, again, there was things like we took Glenn's going to take his paw. There's like locks on the multi-tool, and we can pretend we're going to paw them off, or not. There you go. But yeah, the idea is, you know, like the FPS, like the multi-tool has different modes. Cutting, could be mining, could be welding, repairing. In this particular case, we're just going to cut the 4 kind of hinges, locks off, so we can take the grate open and get through it. And again, this is, you know, I think we've talked a little bit about, you know, especially with something like whether the weather or the temperature, it's about taking, like, the physical inventory, taking the things you need. So do I need a tool to go and do something? Do I need to have an outfit that will keep me warm, or you know, protect me from fire?
And, I mean, I think even with our combat and everything like that, we want people to actually think about what they need to do first.
Are you looking for the exit?
No, he's looking how to turn that off.
No, it's on the bottom here. Go down here. Sir, see that square? Move your cursor down. Oh, can you tap to it? Your mouse isn't working?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. All right, Glenn's managed to crash. That can't be right, right? Come out, do that. That's one way.
There we go.
Okay, well done. So that's the, you know, as you guys know, there's an inventory. There's a personal inner thought system, which is Richard. Is the personal inner thought with 3.8 or 3.9? 3.9. So yeah, that's sort of work in progress. But the personal inner thought is 3.9, which allows you to access a whole bunch of sort of actions or interactions that are sort of on you or would be your thoughts. And so that's a very early version that obviously for some reason is bugged, but we weren't actually meant to end up triggering that.
So we're looking for a data card.
And we're going to steal some data. There's a guard on that side. Just make sure you stay out of that way, Glenn. There you go. Okay, come over here. There we go. Take the data card.
You can take that one, or I think he clocked one on the desk, I think.
Okay. It was risky. Okay, quick. All right, back. There we go. And then maybe under here to get to the other side. And by the way, one of the reasons why, yeah, there you go. One of the reasons, obviously, why Microtech, they like this planet and it being cold is to essentially cool all their,
the server
systems
farms?
and server farms, yeah.
Yes.
It's like a big Microsoft. All right, let's try to get some data. And again, this is building block UI, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that's all put together by a designer fairly quickly without having to have Flash programmers or... Okay. Let's get it.
Texture's got to be a different color.
Let's
I
get
get
out of
lost
here
in
with that
that text
ill-gotten gains.
a lot.
Oops. Can't really go that way.
Yeah.
All right, let's... All right, I don't know. This looks all right. Ooh, all right, Glenn. Just pretend that you're blending in. Okay.
Hey, talking to you. This is our project. You can't just freeze us out like this.
Right. Ooh, jeez. That was close. He almost put it on top of his... Okay. Oops-a-daisy. I think we better get out of here, Glenn.
So we have non-lethal takedowns now.
Okay, let's get out. Yeah, it's part of that. So melee combat does ship with 3.8, and it's a lot more than just that. But it's non-lethal takedowns. You'll be able to fight
to knock people out.
Get into fisticuffs. There's a whole sort of different levels of punch, left, right, block, left, right. It's all actually physically based. So we've grabbed something kind of warm, but we're not really ready to it. We've actually stashed a getaway environment suit. And Richard Trier, I want to bring up to the stage. So Richard's the lead designer on our actor feature team, and I'd like him to talk a little about what is happening right here and the beginning of the active status system that will ship in 3.9.
So what you're seeing here is basically an extension of the room system, and the room system contains temperature, wind speed, humidity, and it basically amalgamates all of that into what you're seeing on the HUD at the moment, which is the apparent temperature. So the apparent temperature actually comes in and is part of our player status system. And the player status system is where you start to feel these environments, and the actual environments start to play into the gameplay. So you can see here that actually the physicalized wind, he's actually leaning into the wind, he's putting his hand up to try and shield himself, but he's not wearing the correct attire. So he's not wearing the correct equipment, because he's just basically grabbed the clothes and jumped outside. And as you can see, it's really cold. So he's starting to shiver.
On the bottom side here, it is.
Yeah, it's like
minus
120 degrees Celsius. So obviously you can only survive at like at least 2-3 minutes in that temperature. So he's actually starting to undergo hypothermia, which is part of our status effects. And hypothermia actually ties into the gameplay. So his heart starts to raise, his stamina starts to decrease, he starts to actually physically start to see you'll see a whiteout, so he starts to become more sensitive to the light, and his audio will start to come in as well to actually really sell that your body is shutting down. And the player status system really, it just incorporates multiple different things. So hypothermia is part of the temperature gameplay, and you're seeing the cold aspect here, but eventually that will be for heat as well as other active statuses as well. But you can see here, it's starting to see the other value on here that you see is the apparent temperature, but the other value is the body temperature. Now the body temperature is tracking your internal body. So, and I think it's, what is it down by now? It's like down at like 33 degrees.
We forgot
Celsius.
to put the drop shadow on the thing. And so we're not in the suit. We actually have a suit that we stashed in the cave, which we're looking for. The other thing that you may have noticed when Glenn was going to the third person view, but we're working on environmental shader effects. So there was snow accumulation on the jacket that he wore. You notice, you go back and look at what it was when he got it and what it is now. And with that, accumulation is meant to be for things like snow, rain, dust, dirt, and that's something that we're looking to have in 3.9. So you really feel the environment.
The biome that basically your environment. So
yes.
It'll build up over time.
So we better get a warm suit on, because otherwise we're going to essentially pass out and then die.
This suit is actually cold, so hopefully when Glenn puts it on, you'll see actually that it's actually frosted, so you can see Actor's actually shivering here as he's putting it on. And this suit is the Caldera suit that we revealed in the character archetype talk, and this is an environment suit that's built for these extreme climates. He's really cold. He's really cold.
So you'll see the visor's frosted up.
You can see, this is like getting into your car when it's frozen. It's frozen, the visor's actually frosted up, your suit's frosted up, and as your suit kicks in, this suit has an operating range that can actually survive these temperatures.
So and if we go, and you'll see it now, because the same effects that we saw in the windshield, you definitely see
So think of it like your car.
so a visor, you're going to see, because it's a big winter storm, snow, slush that's warm in here as it's going out though, it's going to start to get slush, and what we're going to see is Lessar is tough. And then I think the other person that I'd like to bring up is Mike Snowden, who's the director of our visual effects, and his team is being responsible for all the environmental weather effects here. And this is what we're doing on the snow side, but it same could work in a desert planet for dust, rain, and we've actually prototyped a lot of this stuff outside snow, but you're seeing the snow has been our first example. So I don't know if you want to talk about some of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so this is all, the main thing about these effects is they're completely data driven, so I'll put a lot of time into creating these rule sets. The way that we author the effects is completely different to anything we've done before, because we know that we can make beautiful looking storm effects, but the really cool thing about this, no pun intended, is that it's literally the data that the planet gives us. So this ties in with the Planetech V4, which obviously we're showing off today. It ties in with all the active status stuff. So it's like bringing everything together. So they look fantastic, but they're completely driven by what the game data is.
Yeah, the temperature, altitude, humidity, and so it's systemic, and it's and it'll be affected by time of day and other things.
Absolutely, I mean, so the rule sets are things like temperature, even elevation, wind strength, wind direction, even angle. There's a lot of complexity in the rule set that makes it really easy actually for us in the long term to make the effects across all the kind of hundreds of planets that will eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you can see the effect of the winds on the vegetation.
Yeah.
And as you see here, we're in fog. You see the snow. Our visor is getting, it's like you would be, in a snowstorm if you're
Absolutely.
skiing or out there. So we stashed the suit. We actually had a rover that we've stashed that goes in our Carrack.
So
we're looking for right now.
One of the things before we go on too far, the other thing is with the armors, you will run into planets that are outside your temperature range, and so you might last there for 15 minutes. But obviously, we want to make sure that it's very lucrative for you to be able to, go in there and risk reward gameplay for it.
Yeah, so be equipped. That's why you would have a big ship and buy different armor and store it. Okay, so here's our rover, which we've hidden with a little tarp. And this is going to be a much more larger example of the cloth interaction system. So, all right, Glenn, let's get the tarp off and get into the rover. Okay, we can drop it now. And again, that's an example of all the physics stuff coming together, the cloth interacting, the wind's blowing it.
And the wind itself here, one thing I wanted to call out is that the wind is different strengths depending on where you are. So if you're down in the tree line or in the troughs, the wind is a lot slower. And then as you get more exposed, that wind comes out. So it really is a dynamic environment.
And as you see, as we get into here now, the temperatures come up, the water's evaporating from our visor, and we have a clearer view.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the outside of the rover now will have the effect on its canopy.
Yep.
All right, let's let Sam know that she needs to pick us up. Well, after we've engaged the systems, I guess.
Windshield wipers, maybe.
This isn't going to work because of the go-to setup. Because the go-tos break the dialogue.
I'm gonna need a pickup.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a pickup down on the hill.
On my way.
Okay.
Right, gonna. We actually that breaks in our system because we have a little background.
Well,
zoom to the right place, which doesn't actually do the server check right. So it hasn't streamed, and it's actually you are seeing some of the stuff because this is in server OCS, so we don't have everything all the time now. So when things go in and out, we've still got edge cases, and that's one of the issues that we have to fix before server OCS haven't, but it'll be fine. So let's.
Also, this is precarious, so make sure you get a little noisy for Glenn. Oh. All right.
Oh. Yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
You can see the fog starting to thin out now as we're going further down. That's
Yeah. So, like as we're further down, it's not quite as thick. The weather is not quite as intense. I know, it's scaring the shit out of me.
There he goes.
Show off, Glenn. Hey.
Good job, Glenn.
Yeah. I remember when it was almost impossible to get a rover into a ship, but now we can do it. It's great. And here's an example of, so we're talking about storage. So these are actually meant to be for suit storage. Still kind of early days on the stuff, so it's a bit wonky, but we put our suit in there. We need it. So the idea is that you would have suits and stuff that you would store depending on what you would need on different planets. Oops, hang on. We got a crime stat, and I think someone's shooting us from behind.
Yeah, I got a pretty hefty crime stat. We're gonna have to get out of here.
We're being tailed. Get to the turret.
All right, come on.
So this is our first iteration of ship AI in atmosphere.
Yeah. So we are being tailed by Microtech Security because they figured out that we've stolen the data and we're making a getaway. There we go. All right, come on. To our little turret. There we go. Okay, come on, let's get rid of it.
Hey, Sam, why don't you bank?
Alright, okay, come on, let's get him. Okay, last one. Okay, we got one more, right?
Was that all of them?
No, there's one more. Here he is. Yeah. Sam's basically flying the ship to try and give Glenn a good shot. Alright. Come on, get him. Probably not.
Don't make me take it. You gotta do it.
Go on.
Yeah, you can actually see a snowstorm in the distance there in the background as we're leaving. That was where we came from. Do we have to kill them all to advance?
Yeah, punch it.
Okay, come on, Glenn. No pressure.
Joe, take him out.
I don't want to shoot down either.
Shoot it, shoot it.
Okay, Glenn, come on.
take us this long? I don't remember.
One left.
There we go.
Difficult skills after all.
Come on, Glenn.
Hey!
Hey! So why don't we get out of here, Sam?
Okay, we had our mission update.
We get it later.
Okay. Let's get out of orbit then. That's a bit. It's kind of. When we run these run-throughs, it did not take. That was the longest it's taken.
Yeah.
It was a bit
Good AI.
nervous on that one.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to wait till.
You do a sideways, Glenn. It's kind of cool too. Just go to the sort of side around. Get, like, side.
Glenn.
Yeah,
Side.
he's got it. He heard me. See the beauty. Microtech's very pretty. All right. When do we get the mission update?
QT.
Oh, we're Q2? Okay. Yeah, you can see that. Those are trees down there. Those dots. That's cool. So is okay. So now we're going to QT, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get it. Let's get going.
She's having trouble with the HUD.
With the what?
She's having trouble with the HUD.
Okay.
Just get up, and then.
Yeah,
No,
once
no.
I get out of atmosphere, it should
Yeah.
help. I hope.
Says flight systems damaged.
Right, but the
yeah.
attenuated panel.
Oh, what's happened on that one?
Sam, can you hit B and do it?
Hmm?
Can you hit B and do it?
Yeah, I think I can find it with B, hopefully. It was quite a while ago, wasn't it? Hey.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
So fucking, we gotta.
I don't know what
that
happened.
whole we gotta get the nav.
Yeah.
It's funny that whole thing drives me nuts. Okay. All right. Do we have the mission now to go to planet?
Should be. Should be coming.
So when's it come? You don't need to rush, by the way, Glenn. Yeah. So should we get the mission now? What's that?
You should see it up top.
Okay, yeah, I've seen it.
Hey, Glenn, can you check your
Mission status? You should have had the update for where they were. I'm not sure we saw it. Yeah, delivered to Ruin Station. There you go. So I told you we had the update of the mission. I guess we just missed it. Anyway, we got the data. We've now told where we got to go. We got to go to Ruin Station in. There we go. So here we go. Go exterior, Glenn. Exterior. There you go. Show it off. There you go. And this is in the volumetric cloud, the space cloud tech that we have. Same stuff that we're using for Squadron 42 for the coil, but as you can see, usable everywhere else. It's completely volumetric lit in, and it's beautiful. And here we're at the jump point to the pyro system. Now, you don't necessarily need infrastructure for jump points, but the more traveled ones are the ones that used to be traveled, which pyro used to be, but not particularly anymore, have what we call jump rings around them, and they help stabilize the jump point to make for a smoother jump. If you don't have one, then it's more difficult, and the entrance is harder and difficult. But sometimes you may want to try a sort of side jump point to get into a system, like if you're a smuggler, because the main ones would be more, essentially, they are like a checkpoint. It's like going through a border patrol or something.
It is basically a port. So when we're building the solar system, one of the things that we think about are entrances for, obviously, economy reasons, and you saw that with Tony Z's talk, of way to interject new things into the solar system. So around the Stanton jump points, the three major ones, we will have space stations, so that you can go and travel. And let's say you had a long jump point and you want to stop and basically drop something off there,
or refuel,
or do whatever you need to do. So we will have space stations around those jump points that you can go and interact with. Now, obviously, when you go into a little bit more lawless system, I don't want to say like building a wall.
Yeah. Well, in the case of Pyro, it used to be a regulated system that once they strip mined it out, no one goes there anymore, and it's fallen sort of into a lawless state. And so this is not really this isn't a very often traveled jump point, but we're going to take it because that's where we have to go to head to Pyro Station. So as you can see, the jump ring, which is delineating where the point is, off in the distance, and Sam is going to line itself up for us to jump to Pyro System. And this is essentially sort of the infrastructure you occasionally would, you can have around. Some places would have bigger stations. But as I said, the Pyro route isn't a very particularly well-traveled one.
But also with this, I guess with the cloud tech, you see the possibilities of us going in and mining that, and then it affecting your radar, it being booby-trapped, all these kind of gameplay possibilities, I feel, open up with these unique points of interest.
Do you guys think we should open it?
Yes.
I think we should go. Let's do it. That's actually a super cool view. You see that one?
Oh, yeah.
How good that is. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So going through a wormhole is a little bit like riding the rapids. You don't really have much. You have lateral control,
but it's
a little bit of
being on a
forward, but you're
current.
being pushed on a current,
Yeah.
and you've got to keep inside the boundaries of the wormhole. And actually, if Sam gets a little close, you'll sort of see interference on his screens. And of course, Stanton's just going away in the background, and Pero's coming in here. Yeah, and you can see there's actually a current that we put in the wormholes, and you sort of see the particles that are giving you the idea of where the centerline current is. And you have to anticipate to keep on the course, because if you don't, and you go off and you go into the boundaries of the wormhole, you could end up just being spat out in just space in the middle of nowhere, or severely damaged. Go around, Glenn. Okay, so we are now in the pyro system, and we streamed out Stanton as we were traveling, and streamed in pyro. The other side, by the way, has got an awesome light on the side. Yeah.
Set a route to the ruin station, Sam. There we go.
There we go.
Ready? All right, Ian. Hit it. Good job, guys. Good job.
Good job. We made it. No crashes. Woohoo! Close one on the interaction. Good job. All right. Hang on a sec. I think I get another. There should be a slide that we go to. Not a ship. A slide. Come on. Where's the slide? There you go. Anyway, so in this coming year, we were sort of showing you what we're going to do. So we are going to have the pyro system next year. Obviously, that brings in jump points. We're going to have dynamic weather. You were going to be, Microtech, you're going to get the planet itself in 3.8. But we'll be opening up new Babbage in 3.9. We've got moons of Microtech that come in, I think, in 3.9 and we'll be continuing on the development of SOX and the iCache and the persistence, and it's pretty damn exciting. It's kind of coming together, and at the detail that I didn't think anyone thought would be possible. So, hopefully you guys liked it. So I'd like to give a big shout out to everyone on stage that's helped with the demo here. Glenn and Simon, Joe and Rob are backstage somewhere. Thank you very much. They did a great job. Todd, Mike, Richard, John, who I didn't pull up, he got lucky. He didn't have to go in front of people. Jared over there. Also,
underwhelming.
we got, I think there's about 200 developers or so here from mostly Manchester, but some the German office, some the Austin office, and the LA office. So thank you, to all the developers, because I can stand up here and you guys all clap and it's nice for me, but really I'm not doing all this stuff.
They have
There's
a lot of
of
little
really
things
talented
that they're
developers that
adding,
do
which is
everything
great,
that you've
but
been
not one of them
seeing
was,
here, seeing
jaw-dropping.
during the day, and they've worked really hard. And I think things like CitizenCon are one of the coolest things. So they get to come, they get to meet all you guys, they get to interact with people. They're appreciating the work they're
I've seen
doing.
jump points
So it's good, and I want to say thank you to all our developers because they
He
work
didn't
really,
say
really
in the
hard and do a
system,
great
he said
job.
firewall at the end of the year.
And then we also have, obviously the event staff
Carrot,
and the
that comes out in
volunteers
February.
have done an amazing job with this
No
CitizenCon.
Microtech, that
I mean,
comes out
wandering
in
around,
December.
it's brilliant. I mean, going back to the very first ones and to what we are now, it's amazing.
didn't
But
show anything from
thank you
Squadron
to everyone
42.
that's put
Zero.
the show together. I think I don't know what Leia is, but she was producing it. But she did an amazing job. David Roth, he did an amazing job, and everyone that did it on the support side. To everyone on our operations, support,
Seemed like it was like a
marketing,
half scale
thank
compared to
you
last
for
year.
CG. And then you guys, thank you so much for supporting this crazy dream that's getting a little more real every day. Thank you, really, totally. So everyone out there on the internet, everyone here, we couldn't be here. We wouldn't be getting to do this amazing stuff without your guys' support. So
I
we really
think tonight
appreciate
I'm
it.
gonna have, words
So yeah,
on
I
why
am
I didn't like
very
it.
thankful. And I guess we talked about maybe, do you want to see the carrot commercial one last time or something? And then we get some drinks and I'll be there and sign things. And okay, all right, let's do the carrot commercial. And thank you very much, everybody.
My father always used to say I had wanderer's legs. We all wonder, what's out there? But for me, it was more than that. A stranger in my own world, I set out to find my path. Through all my travels, through all the trials of the unknown, I came to realize that there was really only one thing I've been looking for. A place to call home.
Good commercial. Alright guys, well that is the end of CitizenCon, and there's going to be more to come on YouTube videos as they release them. I'm sure I will commentate on them as well. But thanks for watching with me all day today, and I'll catch you next time.